We are live from Hollywood. It's Free Hollywood Live, the live show where I get together with my best friends in the simulation, libertarian comrades, to have my weekly therapy session, which is what I desperately need in this hour. We come together, we discuss pop culture, top news, disruptive technologies, and we shoot the shit with you, the commenters, in the chat. And for you listening to the replay as well, welcome. Where there is injustice, you will find him. When facts need checking, he'll be there. A monster in a tuxedo who prefers his Corona shaken, not stirred. He's Justice. Welcome, my friend. How are you doing?
Well, thanks. Yeah.
I see you're Yeti'd up. You're sounding nice.
Yeah. Finally got the Yeti set up.
There you go. Lean into it, my friend.
Need to find a way to
full
get
Yeti stream
in my mouth without having to lean.
Yeah. Definitely use the Force, Luke. Speaking of using the Force, his is the voice of calm and reason, albeit from the dark side. It's the professor of alchemy with a doctorate in many abilities some consider to be unnatural. He's Darth Yoda. Welcome, my friend.
Yeah, how's it going, gentlemen?
Darth Yoda's stuffing his face with a plate of food right now. A plate of survival food.
Yeah, nice pile of paleo things. But then after this, I'm gonna crack open probably some liquid carbs for dessert.
Well, we are at 4:17 p.m. West Coast time currently, so load your bowls and get your beers and get ready. We're about to go 420, full 420. I have coffee. Bit of cream, no sugar. Justice. I have breaking news, my friend. You're not going to like this.
I'm not?
You're not going to like this. I just got off the phone with family, and they tell me that there is now being enacted in some southern states, Louisiana, Georgia, others, state border closings, and road checkpoints. In order to, Trump mentioned it in the task force briefing that things got real bad in Louisiana really quickly. And the family member I was just speaking to, I asked, well, why do you think that is? And they were like, Mardi Gras, of course. They didn't shut down Mardi Gras in February. So everyone came, everyone got infected, and everyone went home and infected everyone else. And now we're seeing the results of it as the testing has really gotten going in the last couple of weeks. Louisiana is totally infected. Like, don't even think about it. So this family member of mine was really upset because she wanted to get in to say goodbye to a loved one who's dying of cancer, and it's not going to be able to do that, it seems. Hopefully he'll be able to hang on a bit longer so that she'll get to see him again. But anyway, yeah, that's what's going on right now. That's not really actually hitting the news wire about the states closing the borders and the checkpoints, but that's the news I'm getting on the ground from the South.
Apparently,
it's incredible, isn't it?
73 dead in Louisiana.
Okay, yeah, and they just started testing there, so those numbers are, I mean, not the dead. I think that's a pretty solid, objective number. But the other numbers, we expect them to rise much more dramatically than what we're seeing right now, just because of the amount of testing. By the way, that's one of the things that they announced today in the Tecate Task Force. They have a new test that's been approved that only takes about 15 minutes to conduct and get the results back. So that's going to speed up the testing even more dramatically.
So
what-
John Hopkins is reporting 2,400 deaths in the whole of the United States.
Did you want to pull that up on your screen? Try
I'm
your
not sure how to do that.
screen share. Yeah, throw me a screen share, and I'll see if we can get it up on the screen
Okay.
as Darth Yoda finishes his dinner.
This is the one.
Yeah, it'll ask you what do you want to share, and then you'll either choose like entire screen or a specific window that's opened. I usually do entire screen, but you got to make sure to kind of hide your name if you don't want to dox yourself. But you may not be able to. We'll fix it in post.
All right, share screen.
Let's see. Well, I can pull it up. I have it here too. Well, I just wanted to see if it would work. Are you throwing it my way now?
Well, I clicked share before and it didn't seem to do that.
Yeah, I don't see anything just yet. Well, let me just pull it up on mine then. Screen share. Going to do the entire screen. Allow. You have to say allow. That's the other part. And then John, you see the John Hopkins.
Requesting. There you go.
On the stream right now, I've actually shared my screen out. You seeing that?
Cool.
Yeah, we've been looking at the numbers in California rising at an exponential rate. For a while, it was about 10,000 new infections added per day, according to the official numbers. And now it's exceeded 10,000 per day. It's closer to 20,000 per day at this point. We watched the infections rise this week from around 50 or 60,000 at the beginning of the week, and now well over 100,000 and rising. And it's predicted that California will have like over 100,000 infections in one day soon at this rate, even with the squashing of the curve that we've been working so hard to do, everyone in the United States. Well, not everyone. I've been out there, man. There's some people not taking this very seriously at all, just going on about life, and you can't blame them. Can't blame them. There's some neighborhoods I'm driving for, Postmates and Uber Eats. Just signed up for DoorDash, waiting to see if I get accepted into that as well. But there's some neighborhoods I go in, people just walking around, walking their dogs, walking with each other, talking, throwing the football, just having a great time. It's like, my God, everyone's just enjoying being home from work and not really taking this very seriously. But
people most of the time live anarcho-capitalist lives.
Hey, man, that's a really good point. When left to themselves, everyone seems to just want to live peacefully and voluntarily. I'm sorry, I stepped on you. What did you say?
I was just saying, not obey the state. A lot of times, people don't really take what the government says very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
This would be a good.
You have any examples of that? Well, this is.
Well, I work sort of near I work near the coast at a bunch of different harbors, and everybody's out having a great time. Some people will go out of their way to not get within 10 feet of people as they're out walking, but most people seem to be sort of enjoying the outdoors in groups. So.
In groups. Oh, man. I don't recall reading that on the 5 steps to flattening the curve.
Yeah, they definitely, they've shut down, which is, I think, kind of silly, is they've shut down all the beaches, but the best thing you can do to kill viruses is be in the sun, because viruses can't live in the sun. That's the theory anyways. So no surfaces in the sun will ever be able to transmit any sort of disease. So I think the best thing for people to do would be to go to the beach, but they've shut down all the beaches in California. And
they didn't shut them down right away. There were still a lot of people complaining that the beaches are full.
Yeah, that was like day one after the shutdown in California, and then they shut down all the parking and everything. And
then it was only the people that could get there on bikes and on foot and on rollerblades and now it's nothing. Now it's a ghost town.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been to the beach, but in the harbors, they're still pretty busy. Busier than ever, really.
Shut down all the
Everybody's
protein and everything.
taking their boats out.
I'll tell you one thing that's busier than ever is people ordering from the rideshare and food ordering services online through the apps. Man, I've actually been earning more money driving food around than I used to earn driving people around.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and yesterday confirmed it for me. I managed to get other things done besides just driving for money, but I did manage to drive a little bit in the morning using both Postmates and Uber Eats. I've turned people off in the Uber app, so I'm just driving for food at this point. And just using those two apps alone, yesterday I earned $150 driving, and I drove probably solid 6 hours or so. So it's not like a full day's wage for a Lord and Savior, but I'm not really complaining during the quarantine, during the world war of our generation, where all we need to do is stay home and order Dash and play Grand Theft Auto to win this war.
I just looked it up because I wanted to find out what's going on with Rand Paul, and there's no new news about Rand Paul. So I was curious if you guys have heard anything about if he's symptomatic yet, because I kind of thought that would be a big test to see if, like with HIV, for instance, if you get HIV, you don't necessarily get AIDS.
Right.
So I wonder how many people are testing positive currently that will never get any symptoms,
Yeah, I haven't seen any updates about Rand Paul, but as of when he tested positive, he didn't have any symptoms. So
right, and that's been like 6 days.
I like
now.
your idea to use Rand Paul as kind of a canary in the coal mine for how quickly this disease could affect a person that we know, that we're very well aware of. Yeah, good idea.
Yeah,
I hear Tom Hanks is taking a turn. Tom Hanks being one of I think he was the first legit well-known celebrity that we heard of contracting. And I heard just rumor that he's not doing so hot.
Really?
Nothing like he's critical, but that he's definitely not asymptomatic. Sorry for the double negative there. You know what? I wonder if the diet, how much the diet has to do with how quickly this disease can spread into the body. Like the way it works is, as far as I understand, is the virus itself is CV2, and the disease you contract is COVID-19. So the CV2 would be the HIV to the COVID-19's AIDS.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, one is the virus, one is the actual disease that the virus produces.
Yeah, so diet, nutrition, testosterone
that all
levels.
affects your immune system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a high immune system, then that's not already compromised, then you probably won't get it or have much effect from it, right?
And it also affects the presence of, the underlying conditions, or at least some of the underlying conditions that we hear of being, such an issue here. Obviously, there are underlying conditions that you can't control and are of no fault of your own. But then there are ones that end up being caused by, lifestyle and like crappy eating and never exercising and so on. So there's that connection too.
Speaking of which, one of you guys have been doing quite a bit of research in your own time on the subject of high T testosterone.
I would love to get into that, but I was just going to mention that I got to head out, but maybe next time.
Well, I didn't include it in the thumbnail, so let's save that for the
all right.
How to drive.
Because I believe you actually prepared something official for that. I was actually attempting a long segue into it right then.
All right,
and,
A long segue into the high T report.
Into the high T report, which we'll have to wait for another time. But we look forward to that. We're going to wait until the next time. But you have to sign off for now, my friend. All right, Justice.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure catching up, and I'll see you guys later.
All right.
Man. Stay safe, my friend. Excellent. Well, I have something for you. Since we're not going to get into high T right now, because I don't want to. Yeah, so go ahead. Go ahead. What's on your mind?
Kind of as I was finishing up while you guys were talking, I thought that based on your kind of hearsay report about the Deep South, I zoomed in on the 10 on Waze at the Louisiana and
Would you be
Mississippi.
able to share your screen with me, and we can try to get that up on the live stream so people can view that with us?
Well, I mean, there's nothing really to view, which is the good report. And I mean, how do I share my iPhone screen onto live stream?
Oh, are you streaming through iPhone right now?
Well, I'm looking at Waze on my iPhone.
I guess you can't.
Whereas I'm streaming on my laptop.
Never mind. Yeah,
but
maybe
anyway,
pull up MapQuest or something.
Yeah, I thought I could look on Waze and see if there was some police reported ahead checkpoint.
Yeah, because Waze
right
is
around
really
the
good
state
about
line
that.
Here.
Yeah.
And as of right now, I'm not seeing it. It looks like traffic is moving pretty smoothly on the 10. Right around the kind of that state line between
Louisiana border.
Well, I was looking at Louisiana and Mississippi, so yeah, maybe I'll zoom down the 10.
Definitely check the Texas-Louisiana border. That's going to be the one that was specific to my relatives.
Hearing about. Okay, so let's find our way to.
I did have a cousin last week tell me that he saw military assets being moved down the interstate from Oregon, I believe. Not that that's connected with this, but you can just see that assets are being moved around and being positioned for whatever. And that whatever could be the closing of state lines temporarily. By the way, we're burying the lead right here, even though I wanted to wait till later to get into the full Tecate Task Force review. I got to just come right out with it. Today, Trump has made the announcement as far as the timeline of what we can expect with this national quarantine.
Oh, yeah? What did he say? Yes. Anarcho Jesus watching the Tecate Task Force so the rest of you don't have to.
That's right. I'm happy to serve. That's my job.
Thank you for your service.
You're welcome. So April 30th is now the target date, but that isn't necessarily the date for ending this quarantine. And that is later. Yes, your brain right now is beginning to wonder, like, wait a second, did I just hear what I think I heard? Because I thought it was supposed to be Easter. I thought it was going to be tax day.
Yeah.
Well, and some of the press did push Trump on that, push back a bit and say, hey, I thought it was supposed to be this. And he says, that was a target. It was a goal. It was a nice thought, a nice gesture. It was his persuasion game. You know what it was. It was obvious what it was. Yeah. You know what it was. You don't even have to say what it was, and you know what it was. And on Resurrection Sunday,
the country is
resurrected. Our Lord and Savior is going to resurrect the economy. And that Lord and Savior is Trump, not Jesus. I mean, but you can't help but think about it. It's not like you actually have to say anything like that in order for that message to have been clearly communicated. You think of Easter, you think of Jesus, you think of Trump. You think of Jesus, you think of Easter, you think of the resurrection, you think of the economy. It's just there. It's just money on the table that Trump has to pick up because that's what he does. That's what he's so good at. Anyway, April 30th is the target date but look, he actually said we should be doing really good by June 1st. So what happened to the month of May?
So we're, even in this speech, we're moving it back more and more and more.
Well, there's a range now that we can expect. Somewhere between April 30th and June 1st,
Mm-hmm.
the country will reopen for business. It may be kind of like rolling blackouts that roll back, that sort of thing, where it's a phased reintroduction of business. But expect it to begin not on Easter Sunday and like going to work the next day, but by the end of the month or sometime in the month of May or by June 1st, the country will reopen again. Tim Pool had a good speculation about how it will probably go. Whenever that target date is, which now is April 30th, earlier today it was April 15th, but whenever the target date is, when that date comes, it'll be like we have reassessed and we need another week. And everyone's like, okay, we're good with another week. So it can go another week. And then when that week is finished, it might be another week. And then maybe one more, to where you can stretch this thing out for another 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks before the nation gets intolerant of it. And he thinks that that's probably what's going to happen. From what Trump said today in the Tecate Task Force, seems like that is very possible, where April 30th comes around, it's like, let's give it another week or two.
Yeah, then before you know it, it's June 1st, and so.
Yeah. So go ahead and make your plans accordingly. But people, please, quit going out and playing football. Like, that's not the idea. Quarantine. Let's go sweat on each other in the yard. Let's see here. I guess if you're just quarantined with a few people that aren't going out and getting sweat on by other people, then maybe it's okay. If you're all of you are good within your group. Flag football. Yeah, that would be good. Six foot rule flag football, where you have to grab the flag with one of those pincher things that old people use to pick things up from the floor.
Anyway, so I'm not seeing anything on the 10 right around the Louisiana-Texas line right now, but doesn't mean that they don't set up checkpoints there, every so often. But
and it doesn't mean that we're a little bit early on this as well, and they're setting them up currently.
Yeah, that could be too.
It's like by the morning, because things happen fast.
There was also a report on the East Coast of a checkpoint on 95 in Rhode Island. Checking for people with New York plates.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So it's like that now.
Yeah.
If you're from New York, you're one of them.
Yeah, pretty much. Even though Orange Man didn't officially quarantine New York, although he was talking about it briefly yesterday.
Right.
Some of the other nearby states have taken it upon themselves to look into any New York refugees coming in.
Dang, man. Yeah, things are unfolding really quickly. Glad to see people are taking this. Oh, seriously. Oh, we're burying the other lead, by the way. Mario Cuomo. That's the governor of New York.
Andrew Cuomo. Yeah, Mario is.
Who's Mario Cuomo?
Mario Cuomo was, I think, the former governor, years and years ago.
All right. Andrew Cuomo is the governor of New York.
Yeah.
He will take Joe Biden's place in the presidential election.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Biden just looks, it's a rule you don't diagnose somebody who you've never actually met as a patient. But
right.
Yeah, Biden's not looking too good.
It's not looking too swift. It's not an official diagnosis or anything from a board certified therapist, but it's not looking good.
No. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised in the least if you get to the Democratic convention this summer and you do a quick change to Andrew Cuomo. I see basic Democrats already just on social media posting about how much they're in love with Andrew Cuomo right now.
Oh, is that right?
I wouldn't be surprised in the least if they go that route.
I hadn't seen that, but I heard Tim Pool talking about it this week, and it's like, wow, okay, yeah, I can see that. Look, nobody they're putting forward right now is going to beat Trump. I mean, unless this Tecate Flu situation is the wild card that just changes everything, and it very well could. I wouldn't suggest people get arrogant and think that anything's in the bag at this point. This X factor does throw a curveball that could change just about anything and everything. What did we learn from 2016, people? We learned that anything could happen.
Yep.
Anything's possible. Ron Paul could have won the presidency in 2012, is what that means. It was possible. Like, at the end of it, I know we were feeling pretty dejected and felt like, maybe it was never really possible in the first place. Then 2012 comes along and proves that no.
Or 2016, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. 2016 comes along and proves to us that anything is possible. I mean, that was never supposed to happen, man. Orange Man was never supposed to win.
Yeah.
We really did slip into a different dimension, didn't we?
Yeah.
The other universe I was living in,
I would have preferred the Ron Paul dimension, but
yeah. I think maybe we slipped into a different dimension stream, a different timeline after Ron Paul lost in 2012, because the other timeline where we were actually doing all that activism and work, it paid off and he won. Yeah. But somehow we took a left turn in the simulation dimension stream and ended up in the universe where he didn't win, and Donald Trump ends up winning 4 years later.
Whoa, so
ironically.
Yeah.
Wow. Metal review. This is the time in the show.
Review. Oh, I didn't know I was doing that on this one.
You are doing metal review, and we're going to do it right as soon as I get my screen shared. Let's see here, adding to stream. Oh, wait. Yeah, I guess we could do it this way. Can you see this?
Kind of. All right. Who do we have here?
This is a YouTuber. Oh, man, so bad I can't think of his name right now. But he's reviewing this. We're going to review. I don't know where the original video is, so this is what I have. Oh, let me unplug my head. Make sure that my settings are straight. Yep. Here we go.
Corona eviscerated. 1, 2. Mr. President, as you know, the CDC has been working 24/7 to get ahead of this pandemic.
Can you hear that okay?
Kind of.
Let me turn it up.
Unfortunately, we found that the younger generation has had a little trouble.
Is that a little better?
Yeah, it's very crackly, but
maybe I should try my laptop speaker. Hang on.
Yeah.
Tell me if this is better.
Listening to our advisories and our warnings, that could correlate with you saying certain things about the virus, and then
Does that sound better?
Okay, that's a lot better.
Okay, we're just use the internal laptop speakers then. I was using the giant house speakers, but I guess those aren't actually better. Let's try this again.
changing what you say like 24 hours later, and then again, and nobody really has any idea what's going on, but what do I know? I'm just a doctor. But we've prepared a new video. We're taking a new approach. I'm going to show it to you. You can let us know what you think, and then we'll show it to the American people. So, okay.
Yeah.
Pay attention. Okay.
Yeah. Dude.
Brilliant.
I mean, these guys aren't playing around.
No.
I thought this was a joke at first. This is no joke, man. This is serious metal.
This is serious. You know, the most metal virus ever.
Yeah. No.
Here's the mellow interlude.
The mellow bridge.
Yeah. To lull you into complacency.
Oh no.
Uh-oh. The pit is starting at the Walmart.
the mosh pit at Walmart, man. Humanity at its freaking worst, dude. Do the 5. Mm-hmm. Wash your hands often. 2, cough into your elbows. 3, don't touch your face. Man, that one's a difficult one. It's kind of a Zen thing. I've really been trying hard this week not to touch my face. And then you find yourself touching your face and you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's hard, dude. I have a bad habit of, rubbing my eyes or whatever. So yeah, it's
yeah,
it
man.
takes some retraining.
Yeah, it does. Stay at least 3 feet apart. I thought it was 6. And then
it was 6.
5.
We're down to 3.
No,
all right.
Down to 5 is what I heard. Is that maybe they just split the difference? Well, that'd be like 4.5. Feel sick, stay home. I guess that's number 5. I mean, I'm saying don't feel sick, still stay home. If you've been in the proximity of people that may have been carrying this thing, it's just so silent. It's a silent, deadly one. Maybe not as deadly as we thought, though. Right? Let's hope. Seems like right now it's about 97% survival rate worldwide is what the numbers are saying. So that's a good sign. All right. I think that's enough of the song. Let me get out of screen share. Hope you're enjoying the stream tonight. Hit the thumbs up if you're out there. Let the algorithm know that you're paying attention and want other people to join you in the chat as well. Meme review. Darth Yoda. Did you have time to prepare some memes for the audience tonight?
Well, my favorite meme I was hoping we'd have Justice on here for because...
Oh, no. I know. We should have done meme review first.
We should have done meme review first so I could have given Justice crap for his occasional QAnon posting.
Why don't you save that one for the Tuesday night stream?
So we'll save that one. You noticed it when I posted it, and you said it broke but Godwin's law, which it does. But
let me get my headphones back on.
Yeah,
maybe this will sound better. Yes, the meme that wasn't so funny. It just kind of made me think deeply for about 5 minutes straight. Like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Yes. So, you want to get into the memes now? Man, I forgot to do I didn't highlight it.
What'd you forget?
Tonight's big topic I wanted to get into with Justice, but I can get into it with you. We can get into it again with Justice. Why don't we do the memes next? Get into this topic right now.
All right. Yeah.
member of the fandom Menace, right?
Yes.
Like Lord and Savior of pop culture, Anarcho Jesus. I'm out there with Doomcock and Geeks and Gamers and World Class Bullshitters. Oh, in fact, I met someone from World Class Bullshitters this week delivering food
you
here.
mentioned that. Yeah,
delivering Uber Eats in Los Angeles. I met Jeff Hicks from World Class Bullshitters, the I guess the point man and commander of the World Class Bullshitters channel. So him and his buddies, I think, from high school, Kendo and Dion, and they all get together. In fact, they were the guys that kind of inspired me to get you on this show and start live streaming.
Yeah.
Those guys. So I met one of those guys, and it was like, for me, even though, you know, he's just a YouTuber or whatever, that was a celebrity level event for me. I was totally geeking out. I was like, holy crap, you're real. You're not just a face on the internet. Anyway, what was the point of that? Oh yeah, Odin is another Fandom Menace YouTuber. Odin's movie blog, Odin of Odin's movie blog. Okay. I don't know if you've seen his channel or not, but he does not only movie reviews, but he does market analysis of the movie industry. And as you know, and if any of you watching have heard in the past streams, I'm invested in AMC Entertainment, as well as my wife, who's quickly becoming a whale in that asset. If you can consider it an asset, we've watched it drop from $30 a share to under $3 last week. I think it's back above $3.
Oh wait, speaking of whales and assets and dropping, we're getting close to Bitcoin closing for the week.
Let me pull it up real quick. Thank you very much. Wow. Thank you for bearing with us, folks, as we jump around here between topics, but that's what we do.
Yeah.
Here we go. BTC USD. Let's do the Coinbase.
Uh-oh, I don't like what I'm seeing.
I'm seeing red. Okay, now this is the monthly close. Let's go to weekly, because we're doing the weekly crypto close, as we've been doing, as it's becoming our tradition. And we are about 6 or 7 minutes away from the weekly close. Take a look and zoom on these candles. So this is the Bitcoin chart, pretty much, not from the beginning, but from the beginning of Coinbase. The data only goes back to, let's see, to 2015. So crypto goes all the way back to 2009. So this data
so
is
this
a little,
is since
little
Coinbase
light.
started then. Okay.
That's right, since Coinbase started. So it's a little light on the data in the early days. But what we can see here is the big run up in 2017, December, where we got up to nearly $20,000 for a Bitcoin. Oh, and each one of these candles. Oh, are we not sharing? Oh, nope. Crap. Sorry, amateur move. Let me share my screen. There we go. All right. I almost closed the tab right there. All right. Yeah. Sorry about that. So this is the big run up to $20,000 in December 2017. And this is all the pain I've been experiencing ever since.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have the weekly candles for the last few weeks. You can see we've experienced more pain in recent weeks.
Oh, wait, look at that. Much to my surprise, like we're actually closing with not a very nice green candle, but technically a green candle for this week right now.
Well, let me read this. Let me read the tea leaves. What am I seeing when I look at this chart? I see...
I mean, it's ugly, but...
I see things were going great, and then I see a party's over candle right here that says, hey, guys, guess what? No matter what happens in these coming weeks, remember me. Party's over.
Yeah, that was your 50% down in a day 2 weeks ago when the mainstream markets were a bloodbath too, but crypto joined them.
That's right. That was the Black Swan event week. And we closed what appears to be right on the 200-week moving average. But as anyone that was watching saw, there was an
ugly wick down that Thursday that went all the way down to 4,000.
All the way down. There it is. Look, 3,700 indeed.
Okay.
And but it wicked back up, and we closed the week almost above the 200, but we didn't. So that was a breaking of structure. And the following week, indecision candle, the Darth Maul candle. My geekdom was escaping me there for a moment. But yeah, the indecision candle, where we've gone up, we've gone down, we settled somewhere in the middle, but with a bit of a bullish bias. And then you can see we started off this week very strong. We got all the way right back up to the high of the previous week at around 6,900, but we couldn't break through, and we just had a double top, and then we began tumbling back
and
down.
We've just been drifting down the last couple of days here.
And here we are, minutes away, 4 minutes, 3 minutes away from the weekly close, and what we have here is staring us in the face. It is a green candle. Let's see the volume. I have the volume closed. Let's see. Okay, and it is green on the volume. Mm-hmm. But my sense from the shape of the candle is that this green volume is about a pubic hair away from being red.
Yeah, this is not a very strong high T.
They would call this, yeah, right. This is the Antichrist candle. This is the downward facing hammer candle. This is the downward dog, downward doji. You get the point. It's going down from here is what that candle is saying to me, unfortunately. How far down? I have some lines drawn here. You know, it's really important when a guy that does TA draws lines on a chart. So let's see what those lines have to say to us, and where are they coming from in the first place? Why are they even important to us? Well, we're here on the weekly chart. I think I have to go over to the monthly chart for my lines to make any sense. I noticed back in our run-up last year to 14,000, that's this right here, these monthly candles, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 glorious months of run-up that we experienced last year to 14,000. But we had no idea where it was going to come to an end. But it came to an end at 14,000. I noticed after the fact that that is precisely where these double monthly candle bodies close for 2 months. They come into agreement and they close precisely at the place where the price was rejected. Does that mean anything? I have no idea, but I just decided I would start paying attention to it. And what I've noticed since then is that we've found some reversals on the monthly chart at places where, like you have here in these 2 months, the monthly candle bodies agree, draw a line straight over, and boom, look where we got rejected. Boom, we got rejected. Boom. So it looks like there might be some weight to it. I don't know. It's just something to look at. We have double candle bodies here. I drew a line out. Look where we got rejected. Boom.
God, look at that ugly candle that we have for March. So that's going to close. Oh, we'll be able to watch that close on the Tuesday night stream.
Is it the Tuesday night stream? Okay, great. So for those of you listening now, tune in Tuesday night. We're going to do this once again and check in for the monthly close. But what we have right now, we are seconds away. Seconds away from the weekly close. Let us move back over as we watch this hammer drop and become thinner and thinner. Now, see, if this was a nice fat hammer, I'd have a bit more hope. But because it's a nice thin little Antichrist upside down cross hammer, as an anarcho-Jesus, I got to say, that's not what I was hoping for this close. And I'm watching the time. Mm-hmm. We are moments away, folks.
Seconds away.
Let me switch over to the 1 minute chart so we can actually see it count down by the minute. Okay, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, and look at that bounce. No. Okay. There it is.
Bounce.
There it is. No bounce. The bounce, I was hoping for a bounce right there at the close, but it kind of came. All right. Now this is the minute. This is the first minute of the new week.
Yeah.
And look, there's the bounce.
Oh, there you go. You got a bounce on the minute.
Little bit of a bounce. Okay, we're starting the new week with a bit of a bounce here on the 1 minute chart. Okay, but we don't really do analysis on time frames of that level. We're going to zoom back out to the weekly. Yeah, we're going to keep this as more broad market analysis when we're doing the crypto, because you get in too close, you get a little bit myopic. It's very confusing.
So unless you really are up 24/7 trading this shit, those 1 minute candles aren't gonna do you much good.
Well, you can lose a lot of money watching 1 minute candles. That's for dang sure.
Yeah,
because you'll be watching it move like crazy and freaking out when it goes up and when it goes down, and just making all kinds of irrational buying and selling decisions. Yeah, so don't do that. What about the correlation thesis? What have we seen this week to either add some weight to the correlation thesis or the non-correlation thesis, or to take away from that?
Well, I think mainstream markets were up on the weekly. They rebounded after the disaster of the previous week. But their bounce is probably likely due to the impending bulging stimulus package rather than fundamentals. So,
yeah, and so we ended the week pretty decent. Let's take a look at the S&P 500. I'm going to pull that up before I share my screen out. Let's see here, SPY. So I like to follow SPY, which is an S&P 500 ETF. Oops. Share my screen. Here we go. Okay. All right. Now we are still looking at the weekly. So yeah, look at this green candle we had for the week on the S&P 500. S&P indicators of the overall market. It represents the top 500 blue chip stocks. And yeah, we're having a good bounce here, but look how far we've fallen.
Yep.
Okay. Let me back out just a little farther. Okay. So what we have here is the giant run up over the last several years, and like really all the way back. Here we go, February 2009. There we have the V-shaped recovery, right? So that's supposed to be when the recession ended. Oh, funny. Anyway, so the recession ended in February 2009. So the market started its bull run that has been continuing now, and people have been complaining that it's been too long. We haven't had a recession in a really long time. Okay. Now, I never really bought that argument that just because we haven't had a recession in a long time means that we have to have one suddenly.
Or that we ever really got out of the last one in a fully healthy way.
Thank you. Yes, that's a very important point that I think a lot of people sometimes overlook. It assumes that we ever got out of the last one. And as we've been reiterating on this stream over the last several weeks with all of the impending QE and infinite money printing, they made the same mistakes last time in order to kick the can down the road for another day. It happened to be that the can got kicked like over a decade down the road. I'm not sure if they knew that it would be that successful. But here we are in the year 2020, and the new recession seems to be upon us. And what do? We're going to let the market have its way with us, right? We're going to allow the correction to happen so that...
No, we need to print and print and print.
We need to manipulate interest rates. And
money machine needs to go brrr and print.
But look, there's something about this time that's different. I mean, the fact that it's the trigger or the pin that popped the bubble, or whatever analogy you want to use, this time it was an invisible enemy. It wasn't a 9/11 attack. It wasn't... It wasn't like an invader that's like a human invader. It wasn't a war that you can point at and say this is the reason or whatever. It is a war, but it's an invisible enemy, and so it's a little different. Like the draconian measures that are being put in place, like closing off borders to states and putting up checkpoints in order to inspect vehicles between states. In any other context, a person like me would be thinking, my God, we've gone too far. This is the end of liberty forever. This is what Aaron Russo predicted. This is the full fascism beginning to take over. But because of how we're in this context of the beer bug, it's like I'm almost not even fazed to hear that they've closed off the border to states and are setting up checkpoints. My mind doesn't immediately go to Hitler when I hear that.
Well, the problem is, will this stuff ever really get rolled back, or is this now a precedent that's in their, playbook going forward?
My God, that is a terrifying question, because let's say Trump gets voted out. Now, all the power that he kind of put in place for himself to be able to fight the virus and to get the economy rebooted and resurrected after Easter Sunday, whenever that is, that power will be gifted to some noob. I mean, he was the noob, but now basically, like it or not, you're stuck with him. I mean, he's the guy that's really involved with everything that's going on and is positioned to be the best point man, I guess, on everything that's happening right now. But if, as a result of all of this, the sentiment and the mentality of the public dramatically shifts in a small period of time, there's no guarantee he wins, and all that power just gets moved over to the Democrats. And they have more power than they ever had, ever, which is a frightening thought. It's a very frightening thought.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so many of these mechanisms have been in place for a long time. So the Defense Production Act, for example, yeah, sure, you could argue, okay, he's using it for good goals, but this is a mechanism that's been in place since 1950. And, do you want that kind of power in other hands? I mean, if you're a Trump fan, do you really want this power to exist and then be in the hands of somebody who you consider, more open socialist?
Yeah, if you're a really big Trump supporter, you also should be terrified of that. Basically, if your guy doesn't win, all the power that he's amassed for himself that he was going to use over the next several years to calm this situation and to make the country greater than it ever was, and all that talk out the window, that power gets transferred over to Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden, or Andrew Cuomo, or Hillary Clinton, or just think of whoever has been and will be once again in power in the Democratic Party if they were to win. Yeah, you should be frightened about that. Just give you pause whenever you see your guy wrestle the gun of the state out of the hands of the deep state in order to use it for your good purposes. Just know, if your guy could wrestle that gun out of the state's hand, then your enemy can do that as well. Your political enemies can do that as well. So don't be so quick to get excited when power is achieved by your political candidate. It's the idea of power to these perfect masters that's much of the problem of much of what we're experiencing in society today in the first place. I mean, think about all that's going on in the economy and how much of that is a result of all the decisions those perfect masters made way back in 2008 in order to try to, quote, fix the problem.
Exactly. And so now perfect masters are trying to kick it down the road again. And who knows, maybe they'll pull it off.
Well, in order for them to pull it off, looking at this chart once again, the S&P would need to rebound from where it is currently back up to at least where it was before, or at least get up above these moving averages on a weekly basis. Okay, so right now the price is well below all of the major moving averages. We have the 21 week, we have the 50 week on the green, and we have the 200 week moving average here. Now, when you're in a bull market, take a look. back at the history here. Notice how price generally stays above those moving averages. Every now and then it'll dip down and test, but like even here where we closed, where we got this wick down below the 50-week moving average, it's just a wick. The body of the candle remains pretty much on or above the moving average, so the week was able to close above it. And every now and then you'd get down and test this 200-week moving average, but never close the week below it until, and see, like right here is what we were expecting to happen the other week, which it didn't, where you would get this wick back up above the 200-week moving average. But we saw it, and it closed below. Are we looking at the week here? Yeah, we are. Oh, this is the S&P. That was for Bitcoin, but yeah. Anyway, same applies for markets in general. These moving averages are important. So I think what we need to do is get up above these moving averages at the bare minimum. And let me see where that would be. Like around 300, SPY would need to get up above 300 next week, I think. It doesn't have to be next week, but maybe in the next few weeks, that would need to happen. Otherwise, what we're going to experience here is what people in the market refer to as a nice little bounce there, and maybe we go a little higher, but then say we get up to where these moving averages are. If we can't get above them convincingly and stay above them, then we'll get rejected from them. And there's two things that are likely to happen. We're either going to close above this low down here at around 217, and then create an equilibrium pattern where we have higher lows and lower highs as it coils up like that. Or, and this is where I'm at, I'm feeling so bearish right now on markets. We're going to get up here and not be able to break back above the moving averages. We get rejected and then continue down to a new lower low. And that is what we call, my friend, a dead cat. See, there's my kitty.
That looks like Yoda. Those are Yoda ears.
That's more like Baby Yoda.
Yeah, and that smiley face. It's looking a little too happy there for the current conditions. Like, why is it so happy?
That's a good point. Here we go. Dead cat bounce. There it is. Dead cat bounce.
Oh, okay.
Y'all like my charting? Here, let me screen grab that real quick. Okay, good. I got a screen grab of it. Yeah, that's expert charting. I'm going to post that to Twitter later.
Brilliant.
Okay, let's get back to. So I'm not taking the gamble that this is going to actually work, because I've been watching China and what happens in China, and what's happening right now. Let's get into the Tecate Task Force a little bit. And we'll get back to the idea about the movie theaters, because I really want to brainstorm that with you. But the Tecate Task Force, man, they covered a lot. The hospitals, yeah, today Trump announced that the Army Corps of Engineers have been building hospitals like you've never seen. They've been putting them up at a speed like you've just never witnessed before, except for one thing. I have seen it before. And so have you. If you saw the videos of them building the hospitals in Wuhan, China.
Right.
A month and a half ago. And that was one of the things that really clued me in early that it's time to start prepping. This is going to get real bad. Let's take a look at it, because I did actually take the time to find the video. Well, it's not the video, but it's a video. Here we go. Share my screen. Oh, I might be able to. Nope. Just have to do it this way. Okay. Full screen. Can you see that?
All right. Yep.
You can't hear that.
Wuhan. Okay. All right.
Yeah. You don't hear anything, do you?
No.
Okay. Wish I could Yeah, mute that volume. All right. So this is interesting. This video was posted over a month ago, and this shows the completed hospital. Okay, this is what we're looking at right now is one of the completed hospitals in Wuhan. And then this is showing when they begun to build it, okay? This is the beginning stages of building that hospital in Wuhan. Look at this. Like, that's real time. That's not time lapse. This is real time construction right here. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, this ain't SARS.
Yeah, and at the time, a lot of people were coming up with all sorts of other explanations for it. But obviously, it was over this.
And then here's another one. This is the actual time lapse that so many people reference that shows. You saw it in real time just now. Them building, preparing the property for building the hospital. This is them actually laying the foundation and putting the modular structures up. And they built a hospital that can have beds for thousands of people in 10 days time. And that's what you're looking at here, where this is 10-day time lapse, them building that hospital. And so what Trump reports today is that this is happening in the United States now, this week, that the Army Corps of Engineers were able to construct a hospital this week that can house, I think he quoted about between 1,000 and 2,000 patients. So that is a Wuhan-style hospital that he's talking about. So what does that say for us here in the whole plan, how everything's going to unfold, the economy? Is it going to have a giant resurrection? I think it will. I'm bullish long term. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm still bullish. The American
How long term is long term, though?
Well, we saw how things recovered in 2008. We just looked back at the chart and saw that V-shaped bottom. Trump says he believes in the V-shaped recovery. I'm just not sure it's going to be a V-shaped recovery. Have you ever heard of the Adam and Eve pattern?
What's that?
The Adam and Eve pattern is a sharp spike, which looks like a V-shaped recovery, which turns into a dead cat bounce that then makes like an ice cream scooper as it scrapes back down along prior lows or even lower. But then when the ice cream scooper comes back up and it completes the pattern back to the initial spike, where the initial spike goes up, where that scoop comes back and it retouches where the initial spike touched in terms of US dollar price or whatever currency you're trading in. That's when, like the inverted head and shoulder pattern, when it complete, you can begin making targets to the upside. And that tends to play out over a longer span of time than just your typical V-shaped recovery like we've experienced before in 2000, then again in 2008. And the 2001 based around the tech crash and also 9/11. Yeah, 2001. So yeah, I don't know that it's going to be exactly a V-shaped recovery. I guess what I'm anticipating and kind of placing my bets on is that we may have that initial spike, but it's not going to quite bring us back to the all-time highs like we were before, and it will fail, go lower, and then we'll have a nice ice cream scooper over the rest of this year, maybe into next year, and then back to all-time highs. How's that sound?
Right. Yeah, so you're looking, another year or two.
9 months, 9 to 18 months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, and not that I'm one for timing the market, but that's my impression just based on everything I know right now. And I am making my bets accordingly. I've sold some, not entire positions, but I've definitely raised cash at appropriate times and have that sitting on the sideline, mainly to pay mortgage and to survive, because we don't know how long this is going to go on for. Worst case scenario, I've heard up to 18 months. And if that were the case, then pretty much all that cash is going to get used just so we can stay in a house here in California. Even though they're talking about all this debt forgiveness and loan forgiveness and putting on hold penalties. I don't believe any of that. Like, personally, I mean, you're going to pay one way or the other. You're going to pay. And so we're just going to keep paying our mortgage and paying our rent and paying our credit cards as if nothing's going on. And I took out enough money to do that. But what my hope was I wouldn't have to use it all for those things, and I could buy back into the market while it's, really suffering.
Well, it's at a low. Yeah.
Well, we did have a low, but let me ask you this. Did it really feel like we experienced much pain through all of that? I mean, there were big days, big drops, lots of news. I'm not feeling like the market has really experienced much pain through any of this.
No, the pain's still going to come if it's gonna happen.
Not to discourage anyone out there. Just take this as information. Knowledge is power, and take it to prepare accordingly. Not that what I'm saying will come true. This entire time since we've been live streaming, since late last year, and then again starting in mid-February. Was it mid-February? It was early February. We started streaming in early February, and we've been going weekly since. We've been using all the information that I'm talking about that's been coming through WeChat from China and so forth as ways to encourage us to get prepared with a level head before the panic, because you can see the panic coming a mile away. It's just human nature. I'm not giving people that panicked a hard time because they're humans, and if they didn't prepare, that's obviously what's going to happen. But I guess there's some good news. Supply lines seem to be still intact.
Yeah.
At this point.
You'll get your Soviet bread lines trying to get into a store, but once you're in, there's not a whole lot that's sold out right now.
My God, you are so right. I'm trying to get my registration renewed because, as I say, I've been driving for dollars for Uber Eats, Postmates, and hopefully soon DoorDash. But with Uber Eats, because it's Uber and they drive people, they're very particular about all of your driving stuff. Even during a pandemic, you got to make sure everything's tight. But apparently Postmates will let me keep driving even with the expired registration.
Nice.
And I'm seeing about DoorDash. I don't know. We'll have to see about that. But yeah, anyway, what was the point of that, Darth Yoda?
I don't know.
Help me, man. Sorry, I just pulled a Joe Biden. Kind of lost.
So
track
you're
of where I was
driving
going.
around. You're driving around and doing different things with expired registration. And I don't know. Before that, Soviet bread lines. But
thank you. That's it.
But
I'm
yeah,
trying to
long-ass lines
renew my registrations.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
long-ass lines at the DMV are nothing new.
Well, this isn't the DMV. They have a thing called DMV ATMs. Have you heard of it?
DMV ATMs.
Yeah, it's new to me too. And apparently some grocery stores have these, and I found one. And when I got there, I walked right in. There was no problem. I just walked right into the grocery store. I had my gloves, had my mask on, and I sat and waited for someone to finish with the DMV ATM, and then I got up and did my thing. But I realized as I was doing it, I needed to have my expired registration. Well, it wasn't expired at that moment. It is now, as of like 12 o'clock last night. But anyway, I went out to my car to retrieve it and came back. And when I came back, they wouldn't let me back in. There was this huge line that had formed.
Oh, jeez.
And they had basically locked the doors and had security there, just letting people in one at a time. So I had to wait in line for about 10 minutes to get back into the store to redo the process, and only to find out and discover later that these machines aren't really working right now. So
Of course not.
Of course not. Of course not. No, the trains will not run on time. We can't even say that in our communist utopia.
Yeah, seriously. Like, if we're going to have fascism, you're supposed to at least have the trains run on time, right?
That's right.
That's the old saying. Like, what
bare minimum.
Naturally, like, we finally go fascist and we can't even have the trains run on time. We can't even get like the ostensibly good part about fascism.
It's a crime.
America.
It's a crime. Yeah. America, fuck yeah, my ass.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. Is it time to get back to the drive-in theaters brainstorm? Because you didn't even know what it was until I just said it right then.
Drive-in theaters making a comeback.
Yeah, that's the theory. Like with all the social distancing, even once they declare it's time to go back to work, time to get back to work, people. Once they've declared that officially and they say, hey, America is reopened for business, go out there and buy your popcorn and watch your movies and fly in your airplanes and have a good old-fashioned American good time. Don't believe it, folks. Like, people aren't going to trust that. People are going to continue to stay in their homes and watch Netflix and hope that movie theaters start offering, it's not the theater's choice in this matter. They're just the exhibitors of the movie. But the producers of the movie theaters have already shown a willingness to bypass the theaters altogether and to go straight to streaming. Mm-hmm. So what are the theater exhibitors going to do in order to try to get back into the game after all of this? Well, I don't know what AMC and all them are going to do because they're already invested in their hard assets. And they may not have the money because they're highly leveraged to be able to try anything new or innovative. But let's think out of the box. Let's apply some Elon Musk first principle thinking to the movie theater exhibition problem here. Let's say that you're not a highly leveraged up movie theater chain business and you have dry powder on the side, you have good credit with the banks, and you can start a new business and you are really passionate about getting into the movie business. Drive-in theaters. You know, when Odin from Odin's movie blog mentioned it, it was like a flash of lightning. Like, oh my God, I would love to have a drive-in movie theater to go to at this time. And there's not that many. There are some that are still around from the old days that they've kept basically.
But they're very scattered.
They're scattered and they're very, very few and far between. And they're also usually pretty run down. Like it's usually a passionate movie fan who always dreamed of owning a drive-in theater since they were a kid back in the 1960s or something, and have basically sacrificed, maybe even holding side jobs outside of the drive-in movie business in order to keep that place running and opened, because it's just such a nostalgic thing. And some people feel very strongly about keeping them around, so much so that they're willing to sacrifice their retirement to keep the business open in the modern world. But maybe beyond this this crisis, those places that have all these years sacrificed to keep their doors open will start to actually profit from a resurgence of interest in the drive-in movie business. What do you think? Well, you know, all those things that killed the drive-in movie business in the first place are no longer at play. And under these circumstances, in the context of a pandemic, I think the Christian right, they're not going to be coming out saying, hey, we don't like those teenagers making out in the back of cars. You know, I think
at this point, I mean, it would be like a new thing for people.
It would be new all over again.
It's new all over again, because I mean, going to a movie theater, people are like, all right, you know, we've been doing that all our lives. And now movies are just going straight to streaming, presumably with this situation. So yeah, this would be the new thing, would be having a drive-in theater.
Well, what could we do differently in the modern world that they didn't do back in the 60s and 70s when the drive-in theaters first came into popularity in the 50s.
Yeah.
And continued through the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
it was
they
a
were
business
probably
model.
Presumably they died sometime in the 70s or 80s, I would guess, because I don't really remember them ever existing.
I remember them in the 70s, and for sure the ones that I recall from the 70s were dead by, mid 80s.
Sometime in the 80s, yeah.
And there are some that still to this day are still alive. There was one in Lakeland, Florida, I recall, back when I was in Bible college. And we used to go there from time to time, but the movies were only like $2 for a car. And I just kept thinking to myself, how can they stay in business? Like it's like $1 movie, basically. And, two people in a car, $2. I'm just like, I don't know how they can continue doing it, but I bet if the person that was running that business is still alive, that movie theater is still going.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you said, it's their personal passion for it.
Well, as an entrepreneur getting into it again, maybe there's something about, think about those parking structures that sit right outside of the movie complexes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're massive, right? And you can fit hundreds of cars in those things, right? Now, you couldn't fit hundreds of cars in the old school drive-in theaters. You could only fit, however many you could fit on an open field, which might be 50 cars or so, like if it was max capacity. Maybe 100 cars if it was a large field, right? But what if you had like a drive-in multiplex where you take the basic parking structure design that currently exists, but have it oriented in such a way that all the cars that park, you're basically going to park in the section of the parking structure that is playing the movie that you want to see. And your car faces outward from the parking structure, which kind of cones open to a movie screen with no sound, because the sound is going to be piped right into your high quality hi-fi stereo system in your car. That's the only sound. They used to have the speaker that you would physically, you could still hear the theater, the movie, because it was piping through all these tiny speakers that you could set on the window of your car. This was before Wi-Fi and Bluetooth was a thing. Mm-hmm. So that's gone. It would just be Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or something wireless, pumping the audio directly into the car, synced with the movie. So you could play multiple movies with multiple screens positioned on the outside of like a parking structure where none of the movies are interfering sound-wise with any of the other ones. Yeah. And you're just basically orienting your car towards the screen of the movie you want to see.
Mm.
That's what popped in my head when I heard it.
Yeah.
So for all you out there listening, there's your $1 million idea. I know you've been waiting for one. There it is. Go get to building already.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have much competition, because according to Wikipedia, as of 2017, there are around 330 operating drive-in theaters in the United States, down from a peak of around 4,000 in the late 1950s.
Wow, that is incredible. 300? There's some movies in the modern world that premiere that only get about 300 screens in their premiere. Like the smaller independent movies and so forth would be like lucky to get 300 screens on an opening. So that's actually a significant number. I wonder if there's a way that we could track the progress of, maybe just check back on the Wikipedia in a couple of months and see if that number has increased from 300 to say 400 suddenly.
Yeah, possibly.
Be one way to track it. Yeah, we'll have to come up with a way that we can actually track that. Yeah, what we need is like a John Hopkins Coronavirus Center study page that has like all the drive-in movie theaters. That'd be good. Any other ideas like that? Oh, well, here's one. Some of these parking structures in LA where they have valet parking, they have like foyers that have been built right into the parking structure itself, complete with like a carpet that you can drive on and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I would just say build the interior of the parking structure sort of like that. As you're pulling onto the level that you're going to park in order to watch your movie, you're literally driving in on like red carpet and stuff. It's a special kind of carpet that you can drive on that doesn't get so dirty so quickly, or at least doesn't show it. But like you can deck out the interior of a parking structure to be kind of nice, even though it's not really nice. It's not air conditioned. It's not like the interior of an actual movie theater. It's not nice like that. But you have some special lighting. You have some textures and fabrics so that it's not just a stone slate, just a cold, lifeless parking structure, but it'll actually feel like a theater experience that you never have to get out of your car.
Yeah.
And you can use the app to order the food and they'll bring it right to your car.
Oh, this is interesting in terms of I have a statist role in the demise of drive-ins. Wikipedia tells us that the runaway inflation and real estate interest hikes in the late 1970s and early 1980s made the large land tracts used by drive-ins increasingly expensive, and so
that makes a lot of sense. I could imagine
so there was an aspect of this that was due to raw inflation.
I could imagine, like in the 80s. You watch Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Are you caught up on that? Have you seen season 3?
I have not seen season 3. No, I've only seen 1 and 2.
I'm not sure that if this character existed in season 1 and 2, like in the actual story. I mean, the character exists, but in season 3, they introduce us to the politician, like the local mayor, and this guy, he spares no expense for promoting, himself and his brand, like he uses all the tax money. Anyway, one of those type of like a boss hog type.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I can imagine a character like that actually calling the shots. Right. Man, I can't remember where I was going with that. Doc, what is wrong with me? I need more coffee. Sorry, Anarcho Jesus is having moments tonight.
Sorry, Joe Biden moments. This is scary.
Yeah, this might be a sign. I may have caught it. I may have contracted it. I was careful. I was out there doing Uber Eats. I was driving for Postmates.
Yeah, but you caught the Joe Biden flu.
I thought I was safe. Oh, man. Anyway. Yeah, this drive-in theater idea, I think there's something to it. I don't know that I'm ever going to build it. That's why I'm not afraid to kind of put it out there for anyone that wants to get to work on it, because I want to go to it at least. That would be, that's the main thing. I want to go to it. I think about the AMC that I go to, like, I don't think that their parking structure could even be converted into what I'm talking about, but there may be some already in existence that have parking structures that they could kind of just convert it into that sort of an experience. But anyway, we'll see. It remains to be seen whether or not people would even want to get into their cars to leave their house to go see a movie. I mean, society and culture may have shifted so far after all of this that people just have no interest in doing that anymore, even to a drive-in theater where they don't have to talk to or touch anybody. They're just like, nah, put it on Netflix, dude.
Yeah, so you're thinking like a permanent state of social fear, possible to some extent, that would kill any desire for even the drive-in theaters.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The anxiety, the social anxiety that will be left over post, June 1st.
No, people, calm down. We want our drive-in theaters. Stop panicking.
I mean, people may
hoarding toilet paper is one thing. Destroying our dream of drive-in theaters is quite another.
That's unacceptable.
No.
But yeah, man, I really feel like it is possible that culture will have shifted dramatically when all of this is said and done, and it may never go back to the way it was entirely. I mean, I mentioned that we watched Stranger Things season 3, and and that's the point of it. Yeah, I can imagine a politician in the early 1980s, just like the politician in Stranger Things, basically shutting down those drive-in movie theaters because they got to build a mall on it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That was the point of that.
Stranger Things, that's the era of, all the malls were created. Yeah. I mean, the 80s are famous for their malls that are all pretty much died out at this point. But yeah.
That's right. Yep. It was
the 80s and 90s were the era of malls.
That's right. Right. It was a revolution.
And how many of those, were built on what had been drive-in theaters?
Probably a lot.
20 years before.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what was a drive-in theater but just a giant plot of land?
Yeah.
that they're totally misutilizing. because we know best how that land should be used. We're going to put a mall on it.
There should be a J.C. Penney's there.
That's right. And then what they do is these politicians go into the churches and give a little speech to get the religious right riled up. It's like, no, it's not about malls. They don't ever mention that. No, it's about your teenager getting pregnant in the backseat of a car at a drive-in movie.
She's not going to get pregnant at Macy's.
She's not going to get pregnant over at the Gap
port.
I was trying to think of that shop that had all of the fart spray, and in the 1980s it was the Spencer's.
Spencer's, oh yeah,
Spencer Gifts.
Spencer's. Yeah.
All I remember of Spencer Gifts is the giant Tesla coil like ball that you could mess with the electricity, and the fart spray. The toxic fart spray. You remember? You don't seem like you recall the fart spray.
I don't know. I recall Spencer Gifts, and it
had like this.
They exist anymore, but yeah, that was around.
Well, it was an aerosol canister that they would always have like one that had the label that said sample on it. Mm-hmm. Because you really needed to sample this stuff to understand the power of the fart spray.
True powers.
And so, someone would just give it a little, like that's it, just a little, and like everyone in the vicinity, at least 6 feet. I think the 6 feet rule, the aerosol stuff is probably about right. Because anyone within 6 feet of like a little tiny was just like, oh God,
no, you really did it.
That smells wet. Anyway, Spencer, man, that was my favorite store. But the religious right, that was definitely a large part of why.
Yeah, the end of drive-in theaters.
In a way. But the beer bug is bringing it back.
Yeah.
I mean, if this, when I heard it, it was like one of those moments like, oh God, that's so obvious, right? And why didn't I think of that myself? I had to hear it from Odin's movie blog before it like popped into my head. But it's like as soon as I heard it, like the instant I heard it, I'm like, yes, obviously, drive-in theaters, that's what we need. So yeah, multiplex, drive-in multiplexes, like why do we need to limit it to one story, one floor, like just sprawling and spread out like that? We don't need to do it that way. Have like multi-level, multiplex. We could have like stadium seating designed inside of giant parking structures for our cars even. Sky's the limit, people. And, the other thing that occurs to me is it seems you could probably get away with this with far less upfront cost. You know how like Elon Musk talks about first principles and he says, if you were to lay all the parts that comprise a rocket out, just lay them out on a table, how much does that cost? Like, what does that cost? And then once you have that number, you ask yourself, why is that number like 10 times smaller than the actual number that people are building these rockets for? And is there a way that I can combine all these parts to make it much cheaper than what everyone else is doing? That sort of thing. When I think about this drive-in movie theater, multiplex parking structure idea, I think of like, you're talking about a foundation, steel reinforcement, concrete, maybe just some really cheap, shallow carpet and things to kind of beautify it with some lighting. You need weather-resistant screens. You need your projectors and things, just like all movie theaters. And no air conditioning, no heat. That's all built into the car. You could probably get away with far fewer concessions workers. Since you're not going to have giant lines of people, stomping on top of one another to get popcorn and licorice.
No, you could just have like, one person kind of walking along the cars, like
that's right,
like at In and
dim
Out
sum style. Yeah, dim sum. Yeah, that's a great idea right there. You just have a few people with carts going around to cars, wearing their masks, and you just say, I want this, this, and this.
Like a dim sum drive-in fusion.
Yeah, I love that, man.
No, that's the wave of the future then.
Now I need to get the People's Republic of Beijing that's living with me on that idea right away.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, I appreciate that you were willing to brainstorm that with me. I'm not sure that we concluded anything, but it's a good start. Maybe we can revisit that when we have Justice on the stream, because he's always really good in a brainstorming session, I've noticed.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a few ideas we missed that he's going to come up with.
And maybe even Monkey Wrench.
Oh, man, absolutely. What a joy it was to have him on the Tuesday night stream. Think we're going to get him back again?
I'm doubtful, but we can try.
Yeah, we can always try. And we only had him for a few minutes, and it was kind of spotty, but it was really nice to see him. And by the way, if you want to know who we're talking about, just search through the archives on our channel here, Rep Freedom Force, for the video. The Federal Reserve pisses itself a little bit, and you will find a video featuring Monkey Wrench.
Monkey Wrench's finest hour.
It was. I mean, I love that video. He was so good in that. Well, your Bible study, I was wondering if that's still coming along.
Oh, yeah. On Second Chronicles right now. So, you know, in the midst of a lot of what's clearly, I know, has been real Bible code fodder for hundreds and thousands of years, where you get like the absolute exact dimensions of the temple and how many workers, you know, were working on this part and that part. So clearly, you know, you can spend a lifetime figuring out the numerology of all of this, but
the numerology.
Yeah,
you're into that now,
huh?
So now you got into Bible code.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Let me, just for those who maybe are unfamiliar with the little history of your Bible study here. Darth Yoda began his annual read through. Some people do like an annual read through of the Bible, starting from page 1 and try to get through the whole thing within a year's time.
It's an attempt to do it in 1 year. I haven't read it cover to cover in a very long time, so that's an ongoing project right now.
And as Darth Yoda was getting into the parts of the Holy Book that are
a little slower,
a little dry,
to get through,
a little less entertaining.
Yeah,
you know, we're talking about Numbers and Leviticus, Deuteronomy.
Yeah,
even though Deuteronomy has some good stuff in it, but
you've got your Game of Thrones type stuff scattered about in there. But you know, there's definitely some dry stuff.
So in an attempt to make it more enjoyable of an experience, this Bible annual read-through, Darth Yoda started trying to find meaning into the text, like apply some spirituality, some spiritual meaning that he could read out from the text. About things such as the sacrificing of pigeons and the
oxen who tramples on his the neighbor's shrubs and things.
Yeah. and so you were thinking, the oxen that
there must be a reason. What does the ox symbolize here?
What are the shrubs? The shrubs clearly must be my career path, and and the oxen, that's my enemies. And yes, this is starting to get good. It's speaking to me now. And you came to me and said, "Hey, is this a good way to go about interpreting these Old Testament passages?"
And you said, "No. Sometimes an ox is just an ox."
It explained the difference between, eisegesis, which is reading into the text, versus exegesis, which is reading from the text, extracting from the text, which is a more difficult process for a person to do if you're wanting to study ancient literature, because you actually have to dive into the cultural context and try to understand a little bit about who wrote it, who it was being written to, and how they would have understood it back in their time, and what it would have meant to them first. And then, and only then, after you've answered all those questions, can you begin to ask, now, how does this apply to me?
Right.
And a lot of times when you do that and do all that hard work, you come out the other side finding that an ox is just an ox.
Yeah.
And you've done all that work for basically nothing, just to find out that
like, all right, that's 30 shekels of silver if your ox tramples on the neighbor's shrubs.
But now you're taking it to another level, it seems, in your Bible study. Like, now you're falling back.
I'm just aware that, like,
into some habits, some bad habits. Let's see.
Well, it's a these are habits that people have been falling into for thousands of years.
That's true. That's true, and still do.
I mean, Freemasonry. Freemasonry. The whole idea is that a lot of that is based on Solomon's temple, and so Masonry and everything that came out of it spent a lot of time on what these numbers and these dimensions of the temple and what the layout really signified spiritually. Now, I'm by no means like an expert on any of that, but I'm just sort of in the back of my mind, like aware that it exists, as I go through some of these kind of dry parts right now.
So now you're looking into the Bible code, where they basically take the Hebrew letters of the alphabet, right, and they attach certain numeric values to each of them, and then it looks, because Hebrew is not read in the same way that English is read from left to right.
And ancient Hebrew did not have like a separate numerical system, so every Hebrew letter does indeed have a numerical value. I mean, that's
not a stretch or anything.
That's not a stretch.
This is all real. This is based on something real. So you have the numeric value of the Hebrew, and also you have Hebrew that can be read from right to left, and in ancient times, from time to time, up to down, sometimes down to up, right? And so we go even further here with the Bible code. You can take those numbers, you can look at them from right to left, left to right, up to down to up, and diagonals, right? So here's what we have. You can take the different letters and the numbers, and you can look at the text in all those different ways and run it through a computer algorithm, and then suddenly you start coming up with modern day predictions and things, like about 9/11 and so forth, like supposedly in the code there. Now, continue. I want to hear more of what you learned.
Well, I learned that Wen token is going to the moon.
Oh, no!
On May 4th, 2022.
God.
That's the date that Wen token will hit 500,000 Federal Reserve notes per token.
Well, I guess I should hang on to it then. I wasn't planning to sell, but I am definitely sitting on my bag, my $300 USD of Wen token to support Scott Adams' little app company that he got started. Hopefully it does well. But you know what I'm starting to think? It comes to altcoins and crypto. The worse your business plan is, the better. Because no, seriously, think about it. Because if you have a solid business plan, like Scott Adams had with WinHub and his interface app, a solid business plan that you can interface with experts in their field and get information and mentorship and information and pay for that and exchange value one to another directly through the app. That is a solid business plan. And crypto speculators take one look at that and their imagination says, that's a solid business plan. I don't see any upside. Next.
Oh, Dennis Rodman is wearing a Potcoin shirt in the DPRK again.
Buy Potcoin instead. Potcoin. You know what I mean, though? It's like if there's no business plan and it just has some vague but really lofty sounding goal, but no actual business plan of how to get there, then the speculator's imagination takes over. The speculator's imagination fills in those gaps and provides the fuel for the FOMO within himself or herself without needing any business plan to tell you why you should invest in this thing. You have the lofty goal, you have the ambition, you have a little dry powder on the side with some speculators listening to this stuff, and you give them nothing. No business plan, no roadmap, no nothing. And watch your coin pump to the frickin' moon. Because their imaginations will say, oh my God, just think of all the things that you could do with this coin. Just think of all the things once it's adopted into the mainstream. My God, We're going to make millions. And so the speculators start buying up bags, pumping that shit to the moon. Just like I'm saying. But ask Darth Yoda what he learned from all these pumps. Ugh. Take some profits, people, when you're dealing with altcoins, because
we're not greedy.
We're not dealing with something here that's that we're dealing with a lot of fundamentals, solid fundamentals and things. So when you get the pump, if you're holding the bag, don't be a bag holder. Sell that shit. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Sell.
Otherwise, you're gonna have the ashes of those bags 2 years later.
Let me tell you this. When I sell Win Token, there'll be no love lost. Not one single tear shed when I sell that shit.
Yeah, you can tell Scott, you love that Win Token booty.
Oh, man. Yeah, I tried to tap that Win Token booty, but got rejected. Got rejected from all-time highs and pushed down to all-time lows. Yeah, baby, we're scraping zero. Can you smell it? Can you smell the zero? Yeah. It's really based on what Ethereum does. And if Ethereum pumps, then all of those altcoins that are based off of the Ethereum code, not all, but those that actually have something to offer that inspires the imagination will pump.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's the altcoin strategy at this point, is look and see, in terms of the Ethereum tokens, like what actually has a project going on that is legitimately being worked on, and what's just some shitcoin. And at this point, I mean, if you want to be in altcoins, grab some of the legit Ethereum tokens while they're low, and then just forget about them and wait.
I mean, really, you could get into a position of Ethereum today and basically be set up and not have to worry about it again for the next several years. I mean, if you don't want to have stress in your life and you don't want to watch the charts 24 hours a day and stress about it and have that change your personality, if that's not your thing, then, but you still want to trade this stuff, then the best thing to do is to be a swing trader. And that is just buy low in general. And that is generally where we are right now.
Yeah.
And don't worry about it for a couple of years. Check in on it every 6 months or so. Like, you don't have to stress because you've bought an asset that in a couple of years is more than likely to be higher.
Yeah.
So just buy it and don't stress. That's not exactly what I'm doing, but I had at one point I had a really nice position in Bitcoin, and set off to the side. I wasn't worried about it. And, but then I stuck it in the trunk of my car, cause I thought that'd be a really great place to keep it. And, my nephew, is sad about his drinking problem, but, he survived. Unfortunately, the car and the Bitcoin did not. So what I'm saying is the Bitcoin's gone, but at one time I had a really nice position that was being accumulated, and so
that wasn't the Bitcoin that went down with the boat and got gobbled up by the hollow earth.
Man, I got some really bad advice early on. People told me I needed to diversify my Bitcoin, so I put some in the boat, I put some in the trunk of the car, I put some in a few other places, and I got to say, man, that didn't work out so well, because every single place I put my Bitcoin seems to be cursed or something. Yeah. I just don't know what's going on here. Every time I get some Bitcoin, it's like gone.
It's gone.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
Like
car gets totaled, boat sinks.
I
gets swallowed up by hollow earth. Reptilians.
Yeah, that's what happened. I might have been able to eventually retrieve from the boating accident, but it went right into that crevice where the magma is churning down to the hollow earth. So it probably just got melted down and they used it for whatever weapons they were building.
Oh, yeah.
we're going to have Bitcoin javelins flying our way soon after all this is over, as the reptilians resurface to reclaim what's rightfully theirs, the surface of the earth.
I think that was a Doctor Who episode.
Back when Doctor Who was good.
Yeah. No, I mean like this was like one from the 70s or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The good Doctor Who.
I'm so behind on Doctor Who right now. I've really missed most of the new Doctor. I started her first season of it, and like she's just fine as an actress, but the first few episodes were like pretty boring. I think it was the change in the showrunner. Like I really liked Stephen Moffat's style. I know everybody's got their favorite showrunner who's a Doctor Who fan, just like everybody's got their favorite Doctor. And I actually like Moffat's writing style. And then now that he's been gone,
Chibnall now.
Yeah, Chibnall. I just was bored with how the first season started out, and I just haven't gotten back to it yet.
Well, they've achieved levels of wokeness that has never been seen in Doctor Who before.
I heard that too, and so I'm not wasn't in a rush to get around to it either. But you know, I can deal with wokeness or anything if it's like actually well written. But if it's just like,
I actually can too. I agree with that. If it's
not
going to be, go ahead.
If it's going to be boring wokeness, like we've said before about like Star Trek, for example, like the original Star Trek. I mean, clearly it's like, you know, a lot of 1960s liberalism, you know, but it's well written. Like,
well, for example, just in case someone listening doesn't know, it was the original Star Trek series that we had the first on television, at least in America, I think in the world, the interracial kiss.
Yeah. But they never like, you know, it was not preachy.
It wasn't preachy. No, it wasn't on the nose. Usually. It wasn't like they were trying to do an episode about like, you need to get interracial orientation. That wasn't the point of the episode. You know,
no,
but it happened. And it happened naturally in the story. It unfolded naturally in the story where you didn't feel like, my God, this is like a hand and it's really heavy.
Yeah, exactly. No. And similarly, you know, kind of more modern example is I think on the third of the newer Star Trek movies, you know, the reboot of the original show, you see like Sulu and his boyfriend like are walking off. And again, it's just it's something that happens, and they're not like, you know, you will be bashed over the head here.
That was fine.
Yeah. And similarly, I am a horrible libertarian who does not like Atlas Shrugged for precisely this reason. You know, I don't want like a 90-page speech on capitalism. No, I don't want to be beat over the head with libertarian shit either, you know, in the form of a novel. Like in terms of Ayn Rand's novels, like I like We the Living the best, not Atlas Shrugged, because Atlas Shrugged and all of that is just gets way too preachy for me. Like that's not art, that's propaganda.
You are failing the purity test, my friend.
Oh no, I failed the libertarian purity test in so many damn ways, but like any good libertarian, I can have like a very coherent defense of my failures.
I thought you were about
not actually failures.
I thought you were about to say, just like every good libertarian, I have failed the libertarian purity test.
Well, true. Yeah, some of the best, you know, fail it, but we all have our arguments as to why our failures on the purity test are not actually failures. So.
Well, you know, that's something that we could get into on the stream at some point, because I definitely have failed in many ways the libertarian purity test. In many ways, the way this CV outbreak has gone down and people's opinions of it reminds me very much so during the time of the election, of the campaign before the election, with Donald Trump. And how Stefan Molyneux at that time began bringing information to bear on the context of the election about Western culture, about the history of Western culture. He did a series on the Crusades, which was really powerful. It was a historic revision of the Crusades. It was a history of the Crusades I'd never heard that doesn't pin all the guilt on the Crusaders. and gives a more broad analysis of what was happening in the context over the hundreds of years leading up to the Crusades. And these sort of things began to enlighten me about a larger culture war that's at play beyond politics. That just so happens that politics was a part of it. You couldn't get around. As much as as an anarchist coming off of the disappointment of the Ron Paul revolution, wanted to stay away from politics, I couldn't entirely avoid the topic of politics because it seemed like Donald Trump was saying a lot of the same things that Stefan Molyneux was saying, when it came to building the wall and the border security and things along those lines. So I was listening to Stefan, one of my favorite libertarians, talk about borders and talk about what as a nation needs to happen in order to prevent what happened in the Crusades from happening again, at some point in the future and things. And I began talking to my libertarian friends about it. Like, this seems really important, guys. Like, we really need to think about the big picture here of the war against Western culture and how maybe we're taking for granted how good we have it here and all the benefits that we have living in the West and having grown up in the West. And, how fragile is our system? I would wonder, how quickly can we lose all the things that we've grown to love and to expect. And so I began talking to my libertarian friends about it, and I got soundly rejected. Maybe I wasn't making the arguments very well at that time, but I had a feeling that I was on to something that was important and I needed to continue down that path, which unfortunately meant that I was headed down a path away from my libertarian comrades for a time. I had to do my own research in my own areas. And this whole Tecate Flu situation reminds me a little bit of that, whereas I've been kind of doing my own research, listening to information coming from China through WeChat and through my family and so forth, and trying to stay.
That all clearly puts you well ahead of a lot of people. You were calling this stuff based on what your family was saying and what was coming out of Chinese social media weeks, if not, like at least a month, maybe even before other people came around to it.
Yes, indeed. And I'm very, very blessed, very fortunate in that regard, Yeah, absolutely. When I first saw the video we played earlier in the stream of the construction happening in Wuhan to build those hospitals as quickly as possible, I mean, I knew right then and there this isn't going to be the same stuff that we've dealt with in the past. And then also I had an Uber passenger that wanted to stop and pick up masks before he got on his flight to Asia. And this was in January. This was during the time that we weren't streaming. And we stopped at a CVS, no masks. We stopped at a Walgreens, no mask. He went to Rite Aid, no masks. And it dawned on me, oh my God, what I saw with that construction in Wuhan, it's actually worse than I thought, because there's already a run on face masks. And then I thought to myself, well, I have face masks at home. Where did I buy those? I didn't buy them at CVS. I bought them at Home Depot. And so I told the passenger, hey man, one final try. Let's head to Lowe's or Home Depot, see if we can find some masks there. And sure enough, the N95 masks with the giant filter and scary looking, they were all there. There was not a run on masks at that point.
Of course, I'm sure they're all long gone from Home Depot.
Oh, they are. Yeah. And I've documented it. I took pictures. Yeah. I took a picture that day of the shelves and how it was stocked, and then came back a couple of weeks later, and I was able to grab a few more masks, but I noticed that there wasn't that much left at that time. And I came back another week later, shelves were completely empty at all the hardware stores, so you can't find any of those N95 masks anymore. You can't even find the standard thin surgical type masks. Because that's all he really wanted in the first place. He didn't know. I didn't know much about this at the time. In fact, I think he ended up buying kind of an N95 rated mask that doesn't have the giant filter. You know those that you see? I mean, they're considered N95 standard.
I know what you're talking about.
But you don't actually have that square plastic filter that has like
Yeah.
sticky stuff inside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are good. Those are fine. In fact, I hear they're better in some ways for protecting other people. But if you just are thinking about yourself, only want to protect yourself mainly, then you want to get the one with the big filter. That's the one you're looking for. But yeah, N95 without the filter, that protects not only you, but the people around you even better, they say. So yeah, maybe we should just quickly run through the Tecate Task Force news. What do you think?
All right. You watched that, so we didn't have to. So
That's right. That's right.
What'd you get from that? We already talked about how Orange Man said really it's April 30th at the earliest at this point, not Easter anymore.
And we'll be doing good by June 1st. So sometime between April 30th and no later than June 1st, we should be getting back to work, opening up the nation once again. Also, the newly approved 5-minute test for this virus that they can basically get administered and the results back within 15 minutes. So that's new, and that's going to make the numbers in this coming week seem to go parabolic. Whether or not people are actually being infected at that rate, we don't know, but the tests are going to be so much more effective that the numbers should go off the charts this coming week.
Yeah, in all likelihood, it's the tests being more widely available and picking up stuff that was there all along, but people didn't necessarily
know about it. Just like in Louisiana, you had all these people having fun at Mardi Gras. Literally every one of them probably infected with this stuff at Mardi Gras. I mean, have you ever been to Mardi Gras?
I've not. Every time I've been to Louisiana, it's been right around Mardi Gras, but I
can only describe it as
pretty much like soon afterwards. Like this time I was down there. Literally, I flew in the day after Mardi Gras.
Oh, right. Oh, man. So you were in New Orleans right at the epicenter of the outbreak in Louisiana at that time.
Yeah.
Wow. And how are you feeling, my friend?
I am not feeling anything that would
dry cough.
No, nothing that's like the major symptoms of this. So,
all right, good. Yeah. I think you're clean because you've been home in quarantine for a good solid 2 weeks now, right?
Yeah. Well, I've been back from New Orleans for like 3 weeks. So
3 weeks.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things where it's like some of it for a while there, every time I had like some trace of sniffles or felt tired, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I did pick up a mild case of this, but there's never been the like fever, the cough, the like actual serious symptoms of it. So,
I think I know what you're saying.
If I did ever get it, it was like some super mild version of it that, who knows, may have just been a cold. I mean, down the road, maybe I'll be tested and like discover like, oh yeah, I did have it and, knocked it out in like 2 days or whatever. But
yeah, now it feels like anytime you sense anything that's not normal, any atypical symptom that you're experiencing, you're wondering, oh God, did I catch it?
Yeah. And it's officially spring now. And so like spring allergy season is coming for, however many millions of people. And like, think of everybody that's going to freak out now about whatever little sniffles and sneezes and tiredness that they have from their allergies that they get every year. Me included. I always have like at least one really bad week every spring of allergies. So just imagine everybody's going to be mistaking that for coronavirus.
I did too. I offended my wife accidentally because, as you know, I have the People's Republic of Beijing living in my house and my wife's family. And my wife was having a sneeze attack last week as a result of this allergy season that you're talking about. But, I wasn't thinking allergy season. All I was hearing was just like repetitive sneezing for like 5 minutes straight. And I'm thinking and 5 minutes is probably a stretch. It was probably a straight full minute, but it was a lot. I mean, it was a lot, like a dozen sneezes or more. And I'm like, baby, like, is there any way you can stop that? I mean, that is a horrible thing to ask a person. Like, stop sneezing right in the middle of your sneeze. Stop.
Yeah.
But I know it was totally unreasonable. But then when she came out and grabbed the door handle of the bedroom, I kind of was like, okay, I didn't see you wash your hands, and then she was mad at me for the rest of the day, but that's okay. She's over it now. And I realized I was overreacting, but that was, I think that's typical human. That's the way it's going to be. You see someone sneezing in public, you're going to be like walking the other direction.
Yeah.
Whereas before you may not have thought anything of it, just walk right through their aerosol spray. Mm-hmm. 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 Oh, by the way, I guess that's one way we can test our N95 masks. Go get some of that aerosol fart spray from Spencer Gift, and then
Spencer Gift still exists, but I'm sure you can still get that.
Get it at Amazon.
Spray somewhere on Amazon.
Well, I know you can, because these people have been doing the glitter bomb fart spray packages where they're baiting criminals or thieves that would try to steal your Amazon package off the door. They've created like glitter bombs with fart spray. So when they open the package, there's like cameras videotaping them, and then glitter gets thrown all over the room, and then fart spray. You just hear it going zit, 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 zit. That's it, like the fart spray getting sprayed all over the room.
Nice.
And then the reactions of the people. And then the video gets uploaded via Wi-Fi to the internet, so that there's nothing these people can do from ever stopping that video from getting out. And it's them just going, oh God, get it out of here, get it out. Hilarious. So I know that the fart spray still exists, and what we could do is spray it right at our N95 approved mask and see if we can taste any fart in our mouth. If you can't taste any fart in your mouth with the aerosol fart spray, then the N95 mask is working.
Good.
So
brilliant.
Definitely, that's a little PSA from the REP Freedom Force to you at home. If you want to test your N95 mask, definitely do it with fart spray. Anyway, back to the Tecate Task Force. We talked about the Army Corps of Engineers building the hospitals China style. So what was happening in China a month and a half ago, now happening here. That's not exactly what the story was coming from Trump, but that's what I'm getting reading.
So where are they building the hospitals?
This would be for New York mainly, because that's the epicenter here in the United States. He mentioned that they did that in New York for last week, and now they're focusing on other areas for this coming week. They're going to continue building hospitals until they feel like they've got enough beds to handle whatever's coming. And that was the point with my libertarian friends and the whole Western culture thing. There's a whole lot of denial about whether or not this Tecate flu is even real or not, or whether it should be something to waste any time thinking about, or just go on about your life and pretend like nothing's happening and things. And there's no conclusions as to what's real here. I don't know what's real and what's not. All I know is I got to go best with the information that I'm getting and go with my gut, and whatever predicts the best. To me, that's the way when you're dealing not in objective truth, and no way to get at the objective truth. You're trying to get at it. Basically, whatever predicts best is likely to be more close to the truth, the objective truth, than the things that do not predict. Do you know what I mean by, you say, so Scott Adams, for example, he predicted Trump would win the election, right? And there weren't a whole lot of people that were predicting that way back when. In fact, the entire world was predicting the opposite, and all the polls seemed to suggest the opposite, and everyone I talked to suggested the opposite. And it was nothing but talk about how badly he was going to be humiliated and embarrassed around the world. But then he won, and Scott Adams was revealed to be the prophet of our day. One of the very few who made that prediction boldly and publicly before the fact, and put his whole reputation on the line as a result of it, and that sort of thing. So I started listening to Scott Adams at that time. I don't anymore because I've been banned from his stream. But regardless, the things he was talking about and what predicts the best being models that you should pay more attention to than those models that don't predict. So basically, all the models that the world was listening to that was telling them that Trump was going to lose to Hillary Clinton, those models didn't predict very well. So moving forward, you shouldn't listen to those models anymore. Instead, you should listen to a model that predicts better and gives you better results. That's what I'm saying. And so what I'm seeing in this outbreak, I don't know that the information I'm getting is right or not, objectively true, but it certainly seems to be predicting pretty well. giving me a bit of an edge so that I can be a little bit ahead of the curve preparing for this thing and keep my family and myself safe and all that. So I'm tend to trust the information sources that I'm getting, even though I get a lot of pushback from my libertarian friends that I shouldn't be listening to anything. You can't trust anything. And my flat earth friends, that say that all official news, all
flat
official
earth
information.
Friends.
My flat earth friends.
Friend? Jabba?
Okay, friend.
Yeah.
You called me out on that one. Yes, friend. Didn't want to get too specific.
Yeah,
like I have a whole
group
of flat earthers.
Yeah,
just Jabba. But he was
maybe Monkey Wrench kind of ironically, but Jabba in terms of like who we think is actually serious about it.
Yeah, and even that I question now. We have to get him on the stream to push on that a little bit, just to see where he really stands these days. I know he's out of the community now. He has left the community. So he no longer has the community of flat earthers to encourage him. So left to his own, we'll see how much he really believes this stuff. Give it another few months or so, But the one thing that he used to point out when he was a big flat earther was, you can't trust the information sources. There's no way that you can verify the validity of these information sources. It is what he would call an observation problem. Like the libertarians like to talk about the calculation problem. And that's like the ultimate argument against socialism. Well, to the flat earthers is the observation problem. And that's the ultimate argument against basic rationality. No, basically what you think is being rational is based on hearsay. It's all third-party information. You haven't observed that with your own eyes, you see. You think the earth is round because you've seen pictures of it, but have you ever observed the round earth with your own eyes? What do you see with your own eyes when you look out there? All you see is flat. Look at the horizon. Where's curvature? Go up in a hot air balloon. Go up in a plane. Where's the curvature? All you see is flat. So what you're trying to tell me is you believe what you've heard third parties tell you more than you believe your own eyes. Because if you believe your own eyes, you know the earth is flat. But you choose to listen to NASA, which feeds you false information about how the earth is round. But you know better. See, that's the argument. And guess what? If you try to argue against that argument, you've already lost. You know why? Because there's nothing I said in that is false. There's nothing I said in that argument that is false. And that is the basic flat earth argument. And they know you can't actually disprove that argument because there's nothing in that argument to disprove, really. If you try to disprove it, and that's what you're going to do because you think you're rational and you think you're dealing with an irrational person, but you're not, okay? There's a method to this madness. As soon as you start to argue about these sources of information, you've lost.
Dead air.
Oh, is it dead air? Okay. Am I back? Okay.
Yeah, now you're back. That just means that the reptilians didn't want you speaking truth.
I guess I'm over the target, Darth Yoda.
Obviously,
I must be over the target.
That's what happens when you're over the target. The stream cuts out.
Well, let's take, for example, the moon, okay? Right? Right? They say that the moon creates the tides. They say that it's the mass of the moon and gravity that creates the ocean tides. But let me ask you, have you been to the moon? Have you proved this gravity theory for yourself? Perhaps there's giant wave machines under the water creating those tides.
Yeah.
You only think it's gravity because that's what they told you.
You only think it's a moon because that's what they told you.
Well, what is it if it's not a moon?
It's a hologram projected into the sky to make you think that there are no wave machines.
Yes, that's right. So, you really can't argue against a flat earther that starts out. If you let them start the argument, you've lost, basically. You let them make their argument. If you pursue to try to argue with them about the logic that they're going to begin with, then you've already lost. Okay, that's so here. How did I deal with Jabba? You're probably curious to know. Mm-hmm. Well, simple. Elon Musk. There's no reason for us to argue about this right now. Soon, there will be people going back into space again at, like we've never seen. In fact, even going to Mars, like within the next 5 years, potentially if Elon Musk gets his way. And not only will there be people going to Mars, there's going to be space opened up to the average person. Being able to take low Earth orbit trips and things.
But then, your flat Earth people all think that Elon and so on are part of it. They're part of the cover-up.
But it doesn't matter because their argument, using their logic and their argument is it's an observation problem. It doesn't matter how I got there. If I'm riding on Elon's rocket, if I'm riding on Richard Branson's rocket, if I'm riding on a NASA rocket, if I'm riding on the rocket and I'm using my eyeballs to look out a window and I'm looking at a round Earth, well, they might be able to say, yeah, now someone's messing with your brain. Like they're implanting the memories of things that aren't real. I mean, I don't know how deep you can go with that.
Exactly. I mean, I think there's like this whole subgenre of flat earths. Okay, so all flat earthers believe Antarctica does not exist. But there's this whole other subgenre of flat earthers that think that Australia and New Zealand don't even exist, and that everybody who thinks they've been to Australia has actually been to
like South England or something.
I don't know. Yeah, like Wales or some shit. It's like, but they're being told that it's like this whole other continent.
Are you serious?
I'm
afraid you are. Man,
that's why we need Jabba on here to figure all this stuff out.
To help us figure it all out.
How deep does the rabbit hole really go?
Oh man. And he's the one that got me involved with the Face on Mars, Richard C. Hoagland, way back in the day. You remember that? There was
I very much remember the Face on Mars, but officially the Face on Mars turned out to just be a trick of shadows, and now we have more high definition imagery of that part of Mars that shows that it was just some ordinary hills and stuff.
Well, this is perfect. This is exactly my argument. Okay, so let's say now I got into the Face on Mars. I got to admit it. Okay, I'm one whose imagination is easily stirred. Okay, I'm one of those
I would love the Face on Mars and Cydonia and all the pyramids and all that stuff to be real. Believe me, I would love that, but it doesn't seem like it was.
And I watched everything that there was to watch. And I mean, Richard C. Hoagland had seminars that went on for like 8 hours. And this was back in the day where you ordered the discs from Netflix. So I had ordered like the 4-disc series of the Richard Hoagland seminar, which is basically the most boring content production value-wise that you could ever imagine. It's just like a camera locked down, filming a stage of a bunch of white guys speculating about the Face on Mars.
Yeah.
With decent sound. That was the one saving grace, decent audio. But I watched everything on that. I mean, I really got into it. I really wanted there to be girders whenever, the high resolution pictures were taken, because the bet Richard Hoagland made against the NASA scientists was that there will be girders when we get high resolution images. Mm-hmm. There will be signs of true construction and intelligence and so forth. But what happened was, and for years, by the way, this was an open question for years, NASA did not take any high resolution images of that area again. And all of the speculation was based upon the initial low resolution images that had been taken at a certain time of day with certain light. And NASA from the beginning was saying,
had been taken by what was it? The landers that went there in the 70s.
Right.
Not Voyager.
That's right.
I forget what they're called now.
I'm not sure that they landed, but they definitely passed and took photographs. And I'm not sure the fate of those.
Yeah.
But anyway, Viking.
Yeah.
You can if Justice was here, he'd be all over fact checking that at the moment. But The point is, they had these low resolution images. Richard C. Hoagland took one look at it, just like many people that first saw the image, and said, "That's a face on Mars, right there," because that's exactly what it looks like. And the people at NASA said, "Yeah, we said that too when we saw it, but of course it's just a trick of light and shadow. It's not a face on Mars. I mean, that's impossible." And he's like, "No, not only is it possible, I'm going to talk about this for the next 15 years and sell many books while I do so." He's budding NASA for a career in alternative media, talking about the face on Mars for the next 10, 20 years. And what happened was NASA finally did do the flyby and take the high resolution images of that area. And unfortunately, after all those years, under different lighting circumstances with higher resolution cameras, the face kind of disappeared. And it was just a hill after all, a trick of light and shadow, just like they said. And unfortunately, there's no retractions or any seminars of 8-hour videos to watch explaining anything further on that subject. That just kind of died off quietly, just like flat Earth will quietly die away as well.
Oh, there are still occasional Mars things. Like you'll see somebody will post the latest imagery from the rovers and say like, "See over there, there's like that rock there. That's actually a squirrel."
Yeah, no, it's true.
There's been like the squirrel on Mars and all kinds of things.
The human skull on Mars.
Yeah, the human skull. That was like somebody who had escaped from FEMA camp on Mars.
The underground FEMA camp.
Yeah.
And, maybe it would be beneficial to our viewers that maybe have never heard of Occam's razor, to get a refresher on what that is. Basically, Occam's razor.
So the simplest explanation is, or most parsimonious explanation is basically the most logical one.
It is more likely to be the correct answer.
Truth.
So, like it's like your gay friend that never admitted he was gay, but like everyone kind of knows just because there's just something not exactly the same as your typical straight friend, but they just never admit it to themselves, kind of thing. But everyone already knows.
Yeah, Occam's razor would say like, they're probably just gay, versus like some more complicated explanation of like why they've never had a girlfriend or this or that.
Well, it was the very first person I met in this world that wanted to be transgender or claimed to be transgender. I mean, that wasn't the term that was used back in those days when I met this person, but they dressed up like a girl a lot. It was a young boy that dressed up like a girl a lot and was allowed to, and so forth. And the young boy grew up to be a older boy and eventually a adult boy. Still wears a wig, but has a full-grown beard. And I'm just, I had a talk with him before he was a full-grown boy, back when he was like a teenage boy, wearing a wig and trying to be a girl and things. And I said to him, "Listen, man, it's okay to be gay. You don't have to do all this." Like, he's talking about getting a sex change. Like he's saving up his money. He was like 17 at the time, saving up my money to get my penis whacked off. I'm like, "Listen, keep your penis, dude. It's okay to be gay. You don't need to do all that." And it's kind of like, "What? I'm not gay. I am a female. I like penis, but I'm not gay." Anyway, yeah. And it does make me wonder sometimes, because of that experience, how much of the transsexuality is more suppression of gayness than, the actual problem as it's described by
it sounds like
psychologists.
it sounds like what your friend is indicating is that no, he was not gay, he was trans. It's kind of the gist of it. Like he was emphatically denying like the notion that like, okay, you're gay, dude. It's like, no, I'm not gay and I'm not a dude.
Yeah. But, I did keep up with him over the years on Facebook, and I expected, well, if it's true, then eventually he's going to look like a full-blown woman, and it's all going to happen. And like I said, I mean, he just posts pictures of himself wearing a wig with the full-grown beard which isn't convincing me anymore that he's not gay. We're talking 2 decades later.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm far from an expert on the subject, but
well, I'm not an expert. I'm just giving a story from my own personal experience.
Yeah.
That was like late 90s, you know,
yeah,
early trans experience, I guess, that I was having there. But anyway, you know, I never did get through the full Tecate Task Force thing. Let me just continue running through the list. You know, one important thing this week, and that he reiterated today, was that there was the Defense Production Act that had been initiated by Trump to force GM and Ford to produce ventilators for this crisis situation. Toyota, without being forced, has also decided to 3D print face shields and make those available to the American public. But Ford and GM, early this week, I read an article on this because, as you know, Elon Musk was providing ventilators and face masks to the government through his companies, Tesla and SpaceX. They're going to produce that. I think what happened was Trump really expects a lot from these American companies. Not that SpaceX and Tesla is not an American company. I mean, obviously it is. You know, those are very American companies, but they're kind of new companies. They haven't been around. They're not like when you think about,
like, you know, you get drilled into your head like you know, what
GM,
are the all American companies? It's Ford and Chevy.
Right. It's General Electric. It's
exactly.
You know, Walmart, and you know, these kind of that's been around for a while and so forth. But so you have this young upstart in Elon Musk and his new companies producing masks. I think it was 250,000 face masks that they were able to get Monday out there to the public, with a promise of thousands of ventilators by the end of the week, which they also were able to get done. You might be surprised how they got it done. It's not the miracle story that would be like way better to tell. It's just Elon Musk seems to have some really great connections in China as a result of his Shanghai Gigafactory, and was able to purchase ventilators from China and no one else could, and get those into the hands of the administration to distribute to New York and places that need it. And that's already happening. Whereas Ford and GM that promised ventilators basically have had a very difficult time doing it. And as time has gone on, their timelines have gotten longer and the price has gone up on the expense of these things once they do get them, and they can't promise anything until later in the year. And Trump has just been like, this is not gonna fly. We don't have this young upstart from South Africa coming over here teaching American companies, showing them up, getting ventilators into our hands in 1 week, when these guys can't even promise that they'll get them into our hands in 6 months. And charge us 10 times as much for them.
So you know, here's the issue, and you know, kind of ultimately the question about this. We've had 3-4 years now of the word fascist being thrown around, you know, very loosely to basically mean anything that Orange Man says or does that hurts your feelings. All right.
Right.
But, you know, fascism is an identifiable political and economic system. And emphasis here is on its economic component. All right. So one of the big things that differentiated Stalinist Soviet Union from, National Socialist Germany, the two big totalitarian models of the 1930s and 40s, was the fact that in the Soviet Union, Stalin had all industry was nationalized. Nothing was privately owned. All right. Central planning meant that the state literally owned everything. And
right. And thus the trains ran on time.
Yeah. And thus,
like we were saying, right?
Yeah. In Germany, though, much of industry, remained in private hands, but there was still a central plan. So Stalin had his 5-year plans. Germany had the 4-year plan. All right. So central planning was still in existence, but, you could own, your private industry, you can make whatever profit you wanted from your private ownership of industry. But if you were told to do something, you damn well better, make those weapons, make those armaments. if Hitler's telling you that, okay, it's time to rebuild the military because we're coming for our revenge. All right. So, that's your fascist economics. The fascist approach to central planning is things can remain in private hands, but, you better do what you're told and produce what you're told to produce versus, communism where nothing's in private hands. And, I guess it makes it a little easier for the state because, there's not that kind of extra layer that the state has to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the defense? What is the Defense Production Act? I mean, it's basically that kind of fascist model where things are in private hands. Like there's not the outright nationalization of a Ford or GM the way a Stalinist model would. But it's like, okay, Ford, GM, you can make your money, but you will do what you're told. You will produce what we tell you to produce. So I mean,
at least during this limited time. While we're in wartime or something.
But you can say it's fascism then for a limited time. All right. And so, I mean, let's be clear about our terms here and what this really is, in terms of an economic model. All right. And, fascism is such a swear word that nobody's going to come out and say like, oh, yes, yay, go fascists. But let's be very clear about what kind of economic model this is. And so then the question, therefore, is this the only way to do it? What is the free market solution? Because you could say like, okay, you're using a fascist model to achieve good ends of like getting these, ventilators and stuff produced. So is this the only way to do it then? Or could, entrepreneurs be out there producing this? That's ultimately the question.
Right. Well,
like, do we need a fascist model to accomplish this? I would like to think that the answer is no, obviously.
Well, when we first started our YouTube channel and started meeting up, if you guys want to go back, you watching the stream or tuned into the replay, you can go back and watch the video Bank Run that we made. That was our debut video to YouTube where we did some activism and got out in front of the banks and was encouraging a bank run. Is actually pretty hilarious. But that was way back in 2008.
Yeah, and that was right after the last crash.
And we were giving out free copies of Aaron Russo's documentary film at the time. It's called America, Freedom to Fascism. Mm-hmm. And in fact, that movie was part of what inspired us to come together and to be activists in the first place. We wanted to get the information in that movie out to people. So when we did the bank run activism, we were distributing that movie to people. Might need to get back to doing that, actually. It might be a good idea to revisit that movie and take a look at what he was saying that inspired us so much all those years ago. Mm-hmm. And it's basically what you're saying now.
And like you said earlier, like Trump maybe is going to use the Defense Production Act for noble ends, but you take this kind of like fascist model and put it in the hands of somebody who you don't like. And do you really want that power in, if you're a Trump fan, do you really want that power to be in Hillary Clinton's hands, Joe Biden's hands?
Right. If the power was in Bernie Sanders' hands, maybe it'd go down a little different. He's put a little more thought into these sort of things than the rest of them, like his whole life. Not that they would necessarily go any better, but I definitely would think it would go different. Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton, I can't imagine them doing anything but using the power for their own benefit. Whereas a Bernie Sanders, someone that passes the socialist purity test, I'm pretty sure he's going to do his best to help people out and to live up to the aims that he talks about. Mm-hmm. Whereas these people, the Hillary Clintons and the Joe Bidens, I mean, you can't believe anything they say. Or if they're saying it, like sometimes I used to wonder, I see protect and serve on the police vehicles, but who are they protecting and serving? Because it doesn't feel like me. They may be saying a truth, but it's not necessarily good for you, what they're saying. They're like, yeah, we're here to protect and serve our perfect masters, that sort of thing. And here's another thing. Not only did Tesla deliver those respirators, but this whole issue of chloroquine, did you know that came from Elon Musk as well?
Oh, it did originally?
Yeah, in fact, I could pull it up. He tweeted about this. Here, I'm emptying my trash. Sorry. Let me pull this. There it is. Elon chloroquine. Share screen. Okay, can you see this? Oops. Go full screen with it. All right. So this is dated back March 16th, a couple of weeks ago, about the time that Trump started talking about the possible uses of chloroquine to treat COVID. And here Bloomberg reports Elon Musk had an idea for a possible coronavirus treatment, a malaria medication known as chloroquine. Elon tweets on March 16th, maybe worth considering chloroquine for C-19. And then he has a link to a Google Doc that no longer exists. But the article goes on. The Tesla CEO said he almost died from malaria back in 2000. And he tweeted Monday a link to an academic paper suggesting chloroquine tablets could help coronavirus patients recover faster. And so really, even though Trump didn't credit Musk for that, he was talking all about it after this. So I think that Musk can be credited with the chloroquine insight, interestingly enough. Doesn't solve our fascism problem, but I thought it was a nice little aside.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure it is a problem yet. When Antifa was in the streets yelling all their nonsense and bloodying people's heads with bike locks, yelling fascism at every school teacher.
But dude, Antifa doesn't know what the fuck fascism is.
That's my point. Like at that time, they were screaming anti-fascism, but didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Just out there being their simp version of Fight Club, trying to bloody people's heads to make a point. And the point is, we can bloody your heads anytime we want to, and nothing really more than that. And but now we're on a situation where if they were in the streets saying the exact same thing that they were saying, and they're not, you don't hear anything from them right now.
Yeah, Antifa is pretty quiet these days for whatever reason.
Yeah, they're probably quarantined by their professor parents saying, you're going to stay your ass in the house is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
I've spent too much money on your education to let you go out there and catch this thing. That's what's going to happen. But if they were in the streets raising the same kind of hell they were raising in 2016 and in 17 and in 18, it actually kind of seemed justified at this moment. But at the time, it seemed like just a bunch of crazies that you want to board your windows up and, wait for them to go away.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were pretty crazy. I don't think they had a very, an argument about what fascism is beyond just kind of the very surface level, orange man bad type stuff.
And not to waste any more time on them, but I do recall when asked by InfoWars about that, I think it was Millennial Millie, I believe is her name, was attempting to interview some Antifa members. Basically, the only thing they had to say is the only thing fascists know is force, and that's all we're going to give them. The only answer I have to your questions is my gun, basically, and just intimidated, just did their best to intimidate her off camera. And so, argument. That's not an argument.
Yeah, or it's an argument in the sense of that's a famous quote from Chairman Mao that all political power grows out of a gun. So that's the argument right there. Is that
they were making Mao's argument.
The argument. They were making Mao's argument. Despite probably never have actually sitting down and read
studying Mao.
It just is kind of one of those things where it's like trickles down ideologically into like it's just stupid base level, the same way like kind of intellectual neoconservatism sort of trickles down into your average like Fox News bullshit or something.
Right. Yeah.
You know, Mao saying all power grows out of the barrel of a gun trickles down to just your beta Antifa dipshit.
Right. And on
saying
the
things like that.
And on the alternative side, like on the right side, you would have the similar sort of thing to where a saying eventually boils down to where you hear someone on the right say, yeah, just like Jesus used to say, a penny saved is a penny earned.
Right.
Like, I never said that.
No, Ben Franklin or somebody said that.
Oh, man. Fascism, not fascism. It's technically fitting the definition of fascism, what's happening currently in our country with border closings, not only coming into the country, but between states, rumored to coming soon, rumored. And beyond that rumor, there's the other really solid rumor I got from Jabba. You remember that? Did I tell you that rumor?
No.
Well, it was a friend of a friend of a friend. Jabba had a friend who had a friend. Says that they have a friend that works for Homeland Security and martial law is coming, sort of thing. So you could take that to the bank, man. Solid information.
Friend of a friend of a friend rumors. But,
absolutely.
I suppose it's not inconceivable, though.
I'm not sure if it's as solid as Q, but you can trust it. You can trust it at least as much as Q.
Q claims martial law is just coming for the liberals. Right. So,
oh my God, it's like that movie that never hit the airwave about how they were hunting the
that did come out. That finally came out.
When did it come out?
But it's like
out now,
recently.
Right?
Like it's out now, but it ended up going straight to streaming because of the Corona crisis.
It was like The Hunt or something.
Yeah.
Whereas supposedly, when we first heard the synopsis of that, you think it's going to be like an Antifa production about hunting down conservatives, but from what I understand,
it makes all the liberal elites in the movie look really bad.
Yeah, like authoritarian and stuff. Yeah. Right. I actually want to see that. I wasn't so worked up about it when I heard that synopsis. I'm like, that sounds pretty damn good, actually. I want to see this.
But then it got
like, no,
because a lot of basic Republicans
they thought it was super woke.
Yeah, and then it. Now it's come out belatedly, but it was supposed to be in theaters like in the last couple of weeks, but it's one of these ones now that is just going to go straight to streaming service since obviously nobody's going to movie theaters.
Well, I'll see if I can find that and try to review that for the channel. That'd be a good one to review. Also, $3,400 per family of 4 that earned less than $99,000 last year. Now, this family of 4 thing is, I'm like,
I get some breadcrumbs from the bailout.
I mean, look, $3,400, that was actually pretty nice. But what's this family of 4? Now, I've got the People's Republic of Beijing living with me, but none of them are my children.
It's $1,200, per spouse, and then I think then it's $500 per child, something like that.
Up to $3,400.
Up to $3,400, correct.
So we're not going to be left out because we don't have kids. I'm like, what kind of discrimination is this? Though the childless shall have nothing.
You
gave us no factory workers. You gave us no soldiers. You get nothing.
Yeah. No, you wouldn't get the $500 for the children. So.
Yeah, because no children here, just a bunch of 50-plus-year-olds acting like children. We have 4 months full unemployment payments through your local government. Now, this is a controversial topic that came up today, where Trump says this was one of the compromises. He wanted to distribute this 4 full months unemployment through the federal government, and he still feels that they can do a better job. But Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats insisted that this needs to happen through the local governments.
Oh, that'd still be like state level unemployment.
Exactly. It'll be through your current. If you're currently in the unemployment system, you can expect this increased unemployment to come through your current system that you're already receiving through. They want to keep it that. And I don't know all the ins and outs and the complexities of the arguments as to the reasons why to do it at a federal level as opposed to the local level, maybe to skip over layers of bureaucracy and to get more money into your hands. Whereas the Democrats are like, no, we've got a lot of buddies that we've been lining their pockets for decades that we're not going to cut out at this point. I don't know, but I'm very cynical when it comes to politics. You know, like that movie, or that wasn't a movie, but it was a Netflix series called House of Cards. Mm-hmm. You remember that came out right after the Ron Paul revolution in 2012?
Yeah, a lot of Ron Paul people were really into like the first season or two of that.
Yeah, even though the first season takes a dig directly at Ron Paul, you go back and watch it, you'll see it. They have like a quote unquote congressman from Kentucky or from somewhere that was also a doctor, and they don't ever say the name of the guy, but it was like a Ron Paul type, and it wasn't a major, it was like an aside, but they totally could have not did that. You know, because I was watching that episode and I felt that sting, and I didn't finish season 1 for like another year or two. Like I put it off because I was still feeling the sting.
Yeah, I actually never got around to the show at all, even though everybody said that that was a good show. But then I understand, like, people say it goes downhill anyway in terms of like, not being that good after the first season or two.
Well, the show was good. I mean, I personally couldn't watch it because I just had a bad taste for politics at the moment. But after a year or two, I was able to come back to it, and it's an excellent. All right, like this. Americans are used to this show from the 1980s called The West Wing. Right? It was a show about the president and the dramas going. It was like a late night soap opera
it's a
style.
Clinton. Yeah, it was a Clinton era show.
Clinton era.
That, like, shows the White House in like this glowing light, and very favorable portrayal, I think, of
and quite literally
supposed to be Clinton. Yeah,
I do recall the production design being quite well lit and glowing, and everything was bright and sunny, and everyone had the best of intentions. Even if things went the wrong way, you know that they had the good intentions in their heart. They meant the best for the American people. And this was the kind of president and government that we were had depicted in the 1990s that we all kind of grew up with and had this picture. And then comes along House of Cards. And House of Cards flips that idea like and face plants it and then curb stomps it. It takes all of the glamour and the optimism and the hopefulness of people doing the right thing and having the good intentions in their heart, and says none of that's happening. Okay, it never did, and it never will. Politics is a game. It is a cold-blooded game of power grabbing, manipulation, deceit, lies. It's a house of cards that could come tumbling down at any time. And, as I was watching it, when I finally got back to watching it, I was like, my God, this is so accurate. Like everything we learned about politics through the Ron Paul movement, it's like we were seeing it on screen for the first time. And it's like, this is actually a great show. It's a good thing because it's enlightening. It kind of peels the veil back from all of the propaganda that we've been fed over the decades and lets us in on a different idea of what politics might be. In fact, something a little closer to accurate. Just, they don't go far enough. Like in the show, the bad thing that happens is the guy that eventually will become president kills somebody, right? Like literally commits murder and kills a character on the show, an important character on the show. But in reality, they don't have to ever kill anybody individually because they give orders where tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands are dying. Yeah, is what's really going on. And they don't really get into that in the show. I mean, that would be a little bit too.
That'd be a little too much for
for average your
American
normie audience.
Get. Yeah.
Though the Ron Paul people would be like, "That's right, blowback, bitch."
Yep.
And that'd be nice. The Ron Paul version of this show. where Rand Paul becomes president eventually, and things go well for the nation, and someone actually does have good intentions in their heart. I used to think that maybe Trump has good intentions in his heart. I still do.
Well, maybe he does. He just doesn't have a very firm, like, ideological underpinning of everything.
Yeah, that's the sad thing. But, he did come out during this Ron Paul having contracted the Tecate flu. He says, Rand Paul has been a really good friend to me. In fact, he's been a good advisor, like a good friend like that over these years.
Yeah.
He said that. I was like, wow, okay. It's confirmation that he's at least listening to the man.
Yeah, I mean, I think he is. I think, Rand probably has had like a good influence and at least balanced out like the John Boltons of the world, the Pompeos, and like all these people.
If Matthew was president and all this was going down and Rand Paul contracted this thing, would she be saying, oh man, I feel sorry about that. That person's been a good friend to me and an advisor over these years. And she'd be like, hey, he gets what he deserves.
Yeah, well, you saw that's what Nancy Pelosi's daughter tweeted.
What?
Yeah.
That Rand Paul deserved it.
Basically, yeah. I forget we'd have to pull it up, but that's, that was.
My God. I was just, fooling around and making up something that they might do because that's kind of in the spirit of these people. But they literally did that.
Nancy Pelosi's daughter literally did that.
You pulling it up right now? See if I can, see if you can share your screen out just as a test.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it then.
And as you're pulling that up, I'll just. Oh yeah, so this was the thing. Trump says no, I didn't find it. I'm just reading on about the 4 months of full unemployment. Trump went on to say, if the plan to deliver the money to the people through the local government fails, and by fail, he probably means like within a certain amount of time. He didn't specify. He says, but if they fail to deliver, we will step in and distribute it federally like we planned to do in the beginning. So apparently there's some caveats in the deal that they worked out, but he had to compromise to line some local government's pockets and so forth in order to get the money to the people. I mean, I'm not accepting unemployment, but it's nice to know that that's there for the people that need it. And it's sad to know that I won't be getting a full $3,400 check from the fascist overlords. But
yes. Pelosi's daughter, Twitter actually deleted her tweet.
Oh, she deleted it?
Yeah,
but you found an image.
Yeah, no. Well, just looking at the kind of news coverage of it, Pelosi's daughter tweeted, "Rand Paul's neighbor was right."
Rand Paul's neighbor was right. Jeez. Yeah. So Rand Paul's neighbor, just for those of you listening that maybe don't know the full story, Rand Paul's neighbor was a crazy Democrat that attacked him while he was mowing his yard, basically puncturing Rand Paul's lung. He already has a breathing problem. This COVID thing is not a good thing to catch with the person that has a breathing problem. But yeah, he had his lung punctured and almost died because this crazy Democrat didn't like Rand Paul's politics and saw an opportunity to sucker punch him. So yeah, his neighbor was right. In other words, the virus has come for the other lung. Mm-hmm. Wow. Such virtuous, such stunning, brave people we have running our country. Or the siblings of our overlords.
Or the children of our
children. Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's incredible. Picard.
Oh, Picard.
As we have in our thumbnail. Not that Jake Luke Picard actually contracted COVID, but I do have him in the thumbnail because the Picard series has ended.
Yes, but you're not caught up yet, so
I'm not caught up. So
spoilers and
we
stuff.
We can't drill down deep or anything, but I I have to admit, listen to a couple of spoiler-free reviews. Jeremy Johns, who gives pretty good spoiler-free reviews. He did one. I went ahead and listened to his because I knew it wouldn't spoil it and things. Yeah, curious to know your general feelings and thoughts about the season, as I'm hoping to get into it and finish it before we meet again on Sunday next week.
Yeah, well, my general thoughts are I was happy to see Picard back on the screen. I liked it starting out, or, who knows, maybe there were probably flaws in it to begin with, but, over time, that kind of excitement about seeing the character of Picard back on the screen started to wear off, and ended up being a pretty boring and predictable show that developed over time, which is too bad. So guess we'll see where it goes. Guess we'll see where it goes in season 2, but
right.
Season 1 just kind of sputters to a pretty boring and predictable halt.
Well, let me ask you this. You're a Next Generation fan. You haven't seen Picard. This is the follow-up to the Next Generation. You're getting everything. Because I saw the trailers. All the characters are there, at least at some point. That's what we're getting, or no? We're getting, this is the Next Generation reprised.
Well,
again,
you're getting
like for the modern world, or something different.
It's something different. It's clearly something different. Continuity wise, yes, you're getting kind of what happens next, 20 years after Next Generation, but,
doesn't feel like the same kind of.
No, well, I mean, he's not on the Enterprise. There's a whole new crew. And unfortunately, the new characters I didn't find them that memorable yet. I found them to be kind of a lot of just sci-fi cliches. I wanted to be impressed. I wanted to like this, and I liked it at the beginning, and then it just...
We've been talking about this for a long time, and even before we started this live stream, you were really holding out for hope that this would be, the one good silver lining in the midst of a seemingly more and more chaotic pop culture, filled with all kinds of wokeness and preaching and stupidity and just nonsense.
And it wasn't even that this was like all preachy or something. It just got really boring. I don't know. Maybe I've just finally outgrown Star Trek.
Oh man, I don't know that that's the case. Like if you have the good thing, that's what one person said to me about Star Wars was like, you just outgrew it. It's not your Star Wars anymore. And it's just because you're in a different place now. It's just as good for these kids. I'm just not so sure that that's true. Impact kids like it impacted me or the friends that I had that were into. I think like if they gave me good Star Wars, like what we're getting in The Mandalorian, for example, currently,
you'll still
I could get a whole lot. I could take a whole lot more of that and still be satisfied. Like there is no saturation point as long as you're giving me the good stuff. And okay, so all right, here we go.
And so now, just to punish myself, now that I finished season 1 of Picard, I'm going back and watching season 2 of Discovery, since I didn't get around to that when it was first out.
Jesus, man.
Yeah, I'm real.
Friends shouldn't let friends do that, but
real glutton for punishment here.
Hey, to each his own and all, but I wouldn't recommend that. I guess you have to though, because Picard is squarely in the Discovery verse, is it not?
Yeah. Separated by like a couple of 100 years or whatever in the storyline, but
that's what I was afraid of. But it does kind of give me hope that if in the future deals are made where new entities come into the possession of ownership of the Star Trek franchise, and I believe there are deals, in fact, that are going down right now, we may be able to suck the Next Generation cast back out of the Discovery verse and back into the Prime timeline and see what they're like on that side of the universe. That was what I was more curious about. Seems like they may have slipped through the wormhole with the rest of Star Trek and ended up into the alternate universe where Mikey Spock lives, and we're getting kind of the alternate version, the Jake Luke Picard version rather than the Jean-Luc.
No, he's very much supposed to be Jean-Luc Picard, but just years later and jaded. So,
man, I really wanted to watch it with my family. This pandemic really ruined that plan.
Yeah.
I was going to take that road trip and sit down with my family like we used to watch The Next Generation to see how far we could get through this. But I will commit to finishing it.
There's only 10 episodes.
I will commit to finishing it. I couldn't get through Discovery, dude. You're on your own with that one. Sorry.
Yeah, Discovery is basically... I mean, it's like watching Voyager.
I might go watch it. I mean, maybe. I can't say never. Picard sparks my curiosity. I may want to learn the rest of the story about this universe that we're in. But I just like the other universe better,
Yeah.
Where Kirk
it's all considered the same universe. I mean, there's the main universe, and then there's really just the separate universe of the 3 reboot movies. This is all supposed to still be just the prime universe for Star Trek. But although season 1 of Discovery partially ends up in the Mirror universe, if you remember, the famous original series episode with Spock with a beard. Part of season 1 of Discovery ends up in like that alternate universe, but
okay, so I have to watch more if I'm going to figure that out. Well,
but yeah, I mean, no, I don't
really
highly recommend Discovery, just like I don't highly recommend, like, say, Voyager or something.
Well, there's more to the story apparently than I know, but the way I was thinking about it before this was when they slipped through the wormhole in the feature films and went into that new universe. You had a fork between the Prime universe, which is Kirk and Spock and all the ones that we knew, and the Kirk and Spock in the new movies, which is in the alternative timeline.
Yeah.
Which runs in parallel to the Prime line.
Yeah.
But it's a fork off from it.
Yeah.
So now there are some hardcore trekkers that would just soon as collapse this back into the Prime and pretend like the fork never happened. But that's there for those of you that like the what ifs and the speculative kind of stories and things like that. But one day in the future, there will be a glorious day where some inspired creator has the studio backing and finances to purchase this property and to properly move it back to the Prime timeline and get back to making some Star Trek like we used to love, with optimism and hope and a bright future where humanity has solved all the basic lower level Maslow pyramid stuff so that we could get to work on those high-minded, very smart intellectual pursuits of problem solving of the old stories and stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's
what I would like to see.
That's not happening anytime soon, though. I don't think there's a 4th reboot movie in the works.
There's no movies in talks. It's just like with Star. Even though Star Wars has movies slated for the future, I don't believe they're currently working on any, movies per se.
Yeah.
Everything's gone towards the streaming now. Everything's Disney Plus. Everything's Mandalorian and Baby Yoda at this point. I mean, all the eggs got to go into that basket because that's the basket that's the only basket any of the hardcore fans are even given the time of day anymore. Yeah. They've pretty much checked out. Most of them didn't even go see The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, is Rise of Skywalker on Disney Plus yet? Let me pull that up.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And
good
see
question.
If that's
you have
now.
Disney Plus because you have the 1 year free with Verizon?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I canceled Disney Plus after I finished The Mandalorian. I finished it, and then I kept Disney Plus around for another 2 or 3 weeks because I kept thinking I'm going to go back and rewatch The Mandalorian again, but I never could bring myself to do it. So after a few weeks of continuing to pay for it, I thought, you know what? I'm not going to do it. Who am I kidding? I like the show, but not enough that I'm actually going to sit down for 5.5 hours and rewatch it. I'll do that when season 2 comes out as a refresh. So
no, it does not look like Rise of Skywalker is out on Disney Plus yet.
Well, that's too bad.
Right.
You know, that's just because Disney hates their fans. Otherwise, that movie would be out on streaming right now. What the heck, dude? We have a pandemic in the world. Nobody has entertainment to watch. You believe in your movies, don't you? Come on.
Yeah,
what's going on
get
here?
that thing out there already.
I mean, it's not still in theaters. I mean, what are you doing? And, you know, and it's still fresh enough that people are still talking about it. So they need to.
Yeah, people
really
would go
need to
on Disney Plus and watch it again.
I mean, I wouldn't get Disney Plus back to watch that again, but there are things that they could do that would. I mean, it's like $7 a month. We're stuck at home for a couple of months. I would definitely pay the $7. Give me something here, Disney. Give me something to work with. Yeah. Really, I'm actually just asking you to give me anything, and I'll buy it back again, no problem. You know, I never discontinued my Netflix subscription ever since like 2007. So, if you're thinking about who's going to win the streaming wars, just based on my personal experience as a consumer, I don't think it's going to be Disney Plus. Not yet, anyways. They had a good start. I remember when I first saw it, I was super impressed to see that giant library of movies and things.
Yeah.
But we've also seen how they've kind of censored those movies on their streaming service as well. And it kind of brings up the idea that, like, you know, instead of paying $20 a month or $7 a month, why don't I just buy the hard physical media of all the movies that I like and keep those and make sure that I always have them and they never go away.
Even with Star Wars, my understanding, like, I have not watched the version of the original trilogy that's on Disney Plus. My understanding is that there's some other, like, minor changes that have been made, yet again to the original trilogy on here.
McClunky.
Yeah.
McClunky. That's in the George Lucas deepfake videos from Collider.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's what
he starts talking about it. He's like, "Yeah, haven't you seen my latest version of the cantina scene?
Yeah,
McClunky. Now it's the McClunky version.
Yeah,
and basically, as I understand the real story goes, George Lucas has continued to work on these films throughout the years, even the years leading up to the Disney purchase. And the McClunky scene is a George Lucas add-on to the original trilogy. It's just a further additional, a more special edition than the original special editions, where Han does get to shoot first, but before he does, Greedo shouts McClunky.
Yeah.
So it just makes it all right. Everything's perfect now.
You know, I guess I will watch the Disney Plus versions of these sometime, and then maybe because, like, remember, I started like this big Star Wars rewatch that sort of sputtered out again.
So I did too.
You know, maybe I will do the Disney Plus versions and do the despecialized editions, since I have all of those.
Oh, do you? Good.
Yeah.
Good. Me too.
Because
I have the originals.
I guess I'm spending a lot of time at home right now.
I was able to recover my original VHS letterbox collector's edition of the original Star Wars trilogy. It's so it's the original widescreen with the black bars on the top and bottom on VHS with no special edition edits.
Yeah.
It's just the unadulterated widescreen original version, and it still looks great. I need to get it digitized because I understand videotapes, the more you watch them, the worse the quality gets.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And things. So I did rewatch the original trilogy in that format. Man, that was a delight. I mean, I swear that was after everything I've been through with the Last Jedi and the ridiculousness of the Rise of Skywalker and just how it ruined the whole Force Awakens and the whole trilogy. To this point, to me, is like a giant budget fan fiction experiment that could be relegated to the what if of the Star Wars universe. And later we could get back to making real Star Wars. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Like argument I was just making for Star Trek.
About Star
Make
Trek,
that same argument for Dark. Make that same argument for Doctor Who or
except unfortunately, I guess there's not really a Star Trek equivalent of The Mandalorian out right now that really just kind of recaptures everything.
That's what the question I was trying to formulate earlier. It was I felt a question in my brain beginning to emerge, but the words never quite came out. But that's it. The question is, okay, so you know how fans were disappointed in the new Star Wars trilogy. Of course, there's new fans and they love it and all that and disclaimers and blah yada yada yada. You always got to say that. Okay, if you love The Last Jedi, good for you. That's perfectly fine. You can love The Last Jedi all you want. Have at it, my friend. Okay? Just had to say that. You always have to say that. But a lot of fans didn't like it. Me being one of them as well. And it kind of ruined everything as far as the new trilogy goes. And so the question is hated it. On the other side of that, get The Mandalorian, kind of love it. And we're thinking, when it comes to Star Trek, all we seem to be getting is sequel trilogy level stuff. When are you going to get some Mandalorian level stuff in the Star Trek universe?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like make a TV series. Like, well, that's what they're trying to do with Picard. Never mind on the TV series. You don't know how to do that. I don't know, man. But it doesn't seem like it should be this hard. I get the feeling, look, I didn't watch all of Picard yet. I'm going to, but just with that and what I've seen of Discovery and everything I'm seeing, I just don't think these writers have even watched The Next Generation.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's too bad because a lot of us who grew up on Next Generation and then Deep Space Nine being the excellent spinoff off of that.
I really got to rewatch that.
I've been wondering for years and years and years, okay, what happens next? Because then you have, prequels and there's Voyager, but that's happening like on the other side of the galaxy. So it's like, okay, what happens next in the storyline? And now we get that, but then it just sort of falls flat. It's like, well, all right. It's like that there's this initial excitement of like, oh my God, yes, Picard, he's back on the screen. This is going to be awesome. And,
right.
That feeling lasts for me, lasted for quite a few episodes. And then it just sort of, the last month or so of it has just fallen flat for me. Maybe I should go back at some point, since going to have a certain amount of time on our hands now. I'll, go back and just rewatch it. I mean, it's only 10 episodes.
Yeah. Let me know if you can do that. I couldn't even go back to watch The Mandalorian, and I actually like that show.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that initial excitement just eventually kind of wore off. I don't know if the actual quality of the show decreased over time, or whether it was just an initial excitement that died out and finally, it's real. Reality emerged the last month or so of the show.
Well, Trekkers don't have a Mandalorian, but here's a question for you. X is to Star Wars as the Orville is to Star Trek.
Oh. For a while, a lot of people said that the Marvel Universe was kind of the new Star Wars in the same way.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, it's obviously not as close of a parallel as the Orville is to the original Star Trek, but kind of the spirit of it, just like this fun, the funness of it was the parallel I think people were seeing between Guardians and Star Wars.
Well, I tell you, whatever the answer to that question is, and whoever comes up with that answer is going to be the next George Lucas. So, I hope somebody is inspired by the question. Let me just say it again, because Elon Musk says it's the way you frame your questions is half the battle at working out the solution. And he learned that when he was 10 years old and read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where the people in that book had a supercomputer that they could ask anything that they wanted to ask. And they said, well, what's the meaning of the universe, life, and everything? And that was the question they asked the supercomputer. And the supercomputer says, well, it's going to take me time to come up with the answer. So give me about 100,000 years. And generations passed. And then finally the great ancestors came back for the answer, because the supercomputer finally had the answer, and the answer was 54. Is that right? Was it 54?
Or was it 23? I mean, it's some random number. Yeah.
Yeah, the answer was a random number. And they said, what? We've been waiting for multiple generations for the answer to the meaning of life, the universe, and everything, and you say the answer's the number 54? And they said, I can't help it that you asked a bad question. That's the answer to your question. Now, next question. And so Elon Musk learned early on that in order to really get at the heart of the problems that you're trying to solve, you got to formulate your question properly. So let me repeat the question, okay? Because I may not have said it well the first time. Okay. The Orville is to Star Trek as something new that doesn't exist yet is to Star Wars.
Okay. So somebody, we've yet to get that new thing.
And if you can come up with what that new thing is, now it has to be not Star Wars, but touch on the themes, the larger themes of Star Wars and nostalgia. It has to somehow touch the nostalgia that you have for Star Wars while yet simultaneously not being Star Wars.
Yeah, while still obviously not just being a complete ripoff.
Right. It can't be a complete ripoff, but it has to go back to the type of storytelling and character building elements that made the original great in the first place. It's got to be based on character development and actual story. And go somewhere. Actually have a someplace you're planning to go with the story, and not just leave it up to this director and that director to just come up with whatever they want to come up with, and hopefully it all works out kind of nice in the end. Because that didn't work. Because that's what they did, and it didn't work. Not for me anyway. If you loved it, that's great. Keep loving it. It's on streaming. You can watch it a bunch of times. Enjoy. But for people like me, kind of ruined everything. But anyway, that's a question that I've had for a while, but I haven't come up with the answer yet. So I just wanted to put the question out there. Maybe somebody will be inspired to come up with a design and a story and put it out there. And the next great thing, man, I'm ready for it. But in the meantime, Disney, at least put The Rise of Skywalker on Disney Plus for people to watch during this quarantine.
Yeah,
it's the least you could do. And give us season 2 of The Mandalorian as quickly as possible.
Yeah, well, I hope that season 2 of The Mandalorian, that they finished filming it before all this crap started. So,
man, I do too. I certainly do. I mean, I know one thing's for sure. When they saw the eyeballs on Disney Plus as a result of that show, they probably put it into the acceleration mode. Like, oh, you haven't finished writing season 2 yet? I don't care. Start filming. Like, we got to get this sucker done. And then I heard later the worst rumor of all, that Kathleen Kennedy tried to insert herself into that season 2 writer's room.
Oh, and to give us more
woke nonsense, and to try to explain all the plot holes in their sequel trilogy.
Really?
Yeah.
So did that happen?
It's yet to be seen. If you start catching a whole lot of references to things that weren't explained in The Rise of Skywalker, which you haven't seen yet, but when you do, then you'll know. So you got to kind of see The Rise of Skywalker before Mandalorian season 2.
Well, I've seen The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, you did see it. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I thought you just wanted to see it again.
Yeah, I just want to see it again. Yeah.
I see. Okay, yeah. So, there was things in that movie that weren't fully explained, like about the cloning and how Palpatine's still around, and
well, I think you said
what has he been doing
that there's some explanation that Palpatine himself is a clone, and that this Palpatine
and that's already out there
is a clone of the original Palpatine.
Yeah, that's out there in a novelization or something.
Yeah,
but they haven't really explained things in like a visual film or television format yet. And what they're going to try to do is begin to, like what they've done in the books, retcon some aspects of the sequel trilogy and explain other aspects and try to make everything palatable for a general Star Wars audience that maybe was disappointed with the films alone. They're going to try to use the popularity of The Mandalorian and all the eyeballs watching that as a propaganda vehicle to explain all the things and all the questions you have.
I would hate for The Mandalorian to be too deeply connected to the new trilogy. And I don't even mean that as like an anti-new trilogy thing, because I'm not as hardcore anti-new trilogy as you are. But
it would take you out of it.
But I like the idea of The Mandalorian being kind of its own thing that's in the Star Wars universe. And you kind of see glimpses of what the galaxy looks like after the fall of the Empire. It's cool to see those stormtrooper heads up on spikes on a Tatooine.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
It's a nice touch, but it doesn't overdo it. It doesn't overdo it where you're like, everything is directly now tied into the sequel trilogy. It's like, no, this is happening in the galaxy right now, but it's kind of like you get to see like this other part of it that's not directly connected to the main storyline. And I like that.
I love that too. And it's familiar, yet it's new. And you get to revisit some of the old nostalgia, literal places where they've been in the movies before, but it's changed. It's different. You can see the evolution over time. For example, at one point, the Mandalorian visits the Cantina bar on Tatooine. Mm-hmm. And ironically, the bartender is a droid. Whereas in the original New Hope, the bartender says, "We don't let their kind in here," talking about the droids. It was all like racism against the droids back in those days. And now the droids are running the place. So that was, it was kind of a nice nod. Some people say maybe they go too far by spit roasting that species of alien that Jabba the Hutt had his little pet, Salacious Crumb.
Right. Yeah.
And in the first episode, you see one of those creatures being spit roasted, and some people say, that's, you've gone too far. But I think even over time, the people that initially had those early criticisms, criticizing Baby Yoda as way too much member berries, even they have kind of come around to enjoying The Mandalorian. There were some in the fandom menace that after what happened with The Last Jedi, there's just nothing that anyone could ever do really to bring them back. And even some of them have been wooed back because of The Mandalorian season 1.
So Baby Yoda could even win over most jaded and bitter fandom menace people of all.
Apparently so. That's what I'm seeing out there.
See, those are those powers that some may consider unnatural. Can even win back the fandom menace.
Your dark Jedi mind tricks. Wow. Well, you definitely have done a lot to bring the fandom back, but it's not in a solid place, that's for sure. We're certainly not in a place where you can just write it off and say, yeah, Star Wars is back, baby. It's not that. We're not there yet. We had a few good things. What was it? The Mandalorian, followed up by that video game. I can't think of the name. I haven't played it.
I have no idea.
The people that have played it said, yeah, this is the best Star Wars video game ever. You get to use the Force and you get to use the lightsaber, and it feels like you're really doing the lightsaber battle. Like the game physics is really good. They compare it to an old 90s Star Wars game that had the game physics right for lightsaber battles. They say, yeah, it's back and it's badass. And then the third thing would be the Star Wars rides that opened in Batuu West and Batuu East.
Yeah, which unfortunately, I guess we're not going to get to for at least a couple of months now.
Oh, man, nice past reference there. I wasn't even thinking of that, but you're right. We were planning sometime in February maybe to get together and go ride that ride. And then that slipped to March, and then Corona season. And now it just may
so
not
who
even
knows
happen in this year.
when Disneyland is going to be open again.
Well, I have to say one thing's for sure. This was the proper year for me to choose not to renew my annual pass.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, got that choice right. I mean, it wasn't a hard choice after the way I was feeling with Ryan Johnson and everything. I was just like, I'm done. But I'm not done. I don't think I've given the follow-up report. I did short Disney, and I did make a little bit of money shorting Disney, okay? But shorting any company is a very risky thing. And even a company that deserves pain like Disney did in my eyes. But I was able to catch a little bit of this downturn and buy some put options and make a little bit of money off of Disney on the downside. But you know what I did that's even more dumb? More risky? I bought some shares. I couldn't help myself. When it broke down below $100, I took some of the powder I had on the side and bought 100 shares of Disney. I'm back in the long on Disney once again. So I think that's something I kind of kept to myself until just now, that I'd spill the beans right here at the end of our stream. This glorious curfew, curfew obeyed quarantine and chill stream. I think we've covered 10 miles of topic tonight. I think Darth Yoda has also unplugged his Yeti yet again. Yet again. And so we can't hear Darth Yoda, but I think he's probably hearing me this time. I see a couple of people watching this show. Hit me up in the chat with the number 1 if you're still with me. If you're close to a keyboard and can do that, it'd be nice to get a little interaction going in the chat as we're wrapping up the stream here tonight. It's nice to be able to talk in free form and not have a gigantic deadline as to when we're supposed to end these things. We're all in this together. I see some chat coming up in the private chat. Let's see what's going on here. Darth Yoda says, got to take a leak. Yeah, me too. That's funny. So let me know if you see this. Either go to monologue for a minute or we sign off. Or talk about Disney shorts while I piss. I'll continue talking about the Disney short. When we first started streaming, it might have been our very first live stream back in December. Check that one, or the second one we did in the early February. But I was talking about Disney and how I owned 300 shares of Disney before seeing The Last Jedi. And those were shares I intended to grow. I was still accumulating. And I intended to grow and to have that as kind of ancestral investment that I could pass on to, future generations and so forth, and live off the dividends in the meantime. And just, it's going to be a stock I never would sell, never would think of it. I walked out of the theater after watching Ryan Johnson's The Last Jedi, and I pretty much immediately called my broker and sold everything. I was like, I cannot believe what they've done here. I was telling everybody that this was going to be the best Star Wars movie ever. I was counting on it. And in fact, the entire movie theater industry was going through a rough time at that time. And I thought, this Star Wars movie is going to be so good. There's going to be a revival of movie theater cinema going experience after this. People are going to want to come out and see movies because of the new Star Wars film. It's going to be so good that there's going to be spillover. Marvel's going to benefit, and DC is going to benefit, and the entire nerd community is going to have a revival because of the new Disney Star Wars. The Force Awakens was a pretty good setup. They let a lot of things hanging, but once they get Luke Skywalker back on the big screen, and once we find out where he's been and what he's been up to, and once we see his true power, and once we see how he fits into this bigger story, it's going to be the best Star Wars movie ever. And I sat there in that theater watching this story unfold, watching one insult after another to the legacy of Luke Skywalker and to the original George Lucas Star Wars. One slap in the face, one gut punch after the other. I was feeling it as I go, just like, it was unbelievable. And I was in shock. It took me a few days really to understand what I had seen and how I was really feeling. But when I did, I picked up the phone and said, "Sell everything." And that was words I never thought I would ever say. I mean, and I'm not typically selling everything on anything that I've bought. I thought if I believed in it enough to buy it, if I'm selling, I'm only taking a small percentage of profit, or I'm going to sell half, keep half. I sold everything, like it's over. But if you listen back to that initial live stream when I was talking about the Disney position, I was making the case to Darth Yoda that Disney's a highly diversified company that has its hands in a lot of different areas. And buying Disney is almost like buying a mutual fund, because when you buy Disney, you're buying a retail company with merchandise, and you're buying a feature film company and an animation studio and a theme park division and a cruise line. And this must have been the December. You're back, aren't you, Darth Yoda?
Yes.
This must have been the December stream, because I wouldn't have been so bullish on cruise lines in February, I don't think. So you listen back to the December stream if you want to hear me make a complete fool of myself and make the bull case for Disney and almost talk myself back into going long right there on the live stream. Then later, after all this is unfolded, I have decided to buy back in at around $96, $97. Now, it did go quite a bit lower. I saw it get down to like $79, I think, or maybe 80. And it's just like, okay, now when the lower low happens, it's going to be in the $70, man. Like that's what's happening. So now I'm even wondering, have I made a mistake and bought too early? Should I make a fool of myself and call my broker and sell those 100 shares on the bounce, this dead cat bounce, and then plan to repurchase again lower, and then watch me be made a fool of publicly when the dead cat bounce never materializes and we just go back to all-time highs, and then once again I'm left on the sideline holding no Disney shares. There's a lot to consider. Everything seems so easy when it's theoretical, but put some real money on the line, and that's when it gets real. And that's why I think it's all fun and games to talk theory about everything, but what are you doing with your money? That's how I know what you really believe. And I said that in the Bible as well. You can check that out in the book of Matthew. Where a man's heart is, or where a man's money is, there his heart is also. I think I said that. Or at least my twin stepbrother said it, at least.
Yeah, maybe your twin stepbrother said that. And I
can take
I got
credit.
a ways to go. I'm only on Second Chronicles. So.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, sorry. Spoilers. I should have said spoilers. Doggone it. Man, spoiler alert. New Testament.
Alert. Yeah, it's a long time till then and a long time till Romans 13.
We got to make it a regular thing on the live stream, though. I'm going to keep checking in with you, if you don't mind, on your Bible study and how it's going. I'm really looking forward to you getting to the book of Revelation so we can really start getting into some speculative nonsense.
Oh, well, I mean, you got all the big Old Testament prophecy books.
Well, we could start there.
Before that. I'll get
absolutely
to Isaiah and so on sometime in the near future.
That's right. There's some really good ones in Isaiah and in Ezekiel, Zechariah, Micah. Yeah, some good stuff. Good stuff. That's where the lion lays down with the lamb and the plows are banged into plowshares.
Yeah.
And all that good stuff, which is leading up to the Revelation. And by the way, if you ever hear a so-called, quote, Bible expert call it the Revelations with the plural, right then and there, they're no expert at anything. They're just trying to get your money.
Oh, right.
PSA from Anarcho Jesus. Sorry to go full black pill on you there, but the reality is it's the Revelation. It's not plural. And when you hear that, the person probably is a noob.
No, I mean, if you hear somebody call it Revelation, they're a heretic to begin with, because the real name is the Apocalypse.
Ah, I see what you're saying there. Going a level deeper. Drilling down even deeper.
Into, Although even Catholic Bibles, English translations call it Revelation, but there was a point where, your Catholic translation would, the name was the Apocalypse, I believe.
The Apocrypha?
No, the Apocalypse was
Now that is
at
the
least formerly the
yes.
Catholic Bible name for the
think-
Book of Revelation.
I think you might be right. I'm going to have to double fact check on that one. But let me ask you this.
I
Do
mean,
you
my
have any-
current Catholic translation is calls it Revelation, but I think if you get a much older Catholic translation of the Bible, it's called the Apocalypse in English, not the Book of Revelation.
Let's test
Don't quote
one
me
thing.
on that. I might be wrong, but that's in the back of my head somewhere.
Right on. Do you have something you can riff on for a minute? Or should we end the stream? Because I got to pee really bad.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
All right, folks. I know that you've been watching tonight, and you're going to be tuned into the replay later on. And sorry for the quick wrap up, but really appreciate you tuning in, and that we can entertain you during this time of quarantine. We'll be back on Tuesday night probably to do another live stream.
Yeah.
Not exactly sure what time we'll get started. We tend to get started around the 4 or 5 o'clock. That's Tuesdays. We can start a little later because Justice isn't working and have to leave. We're trying to get started by 4 o'clock on Sundays, so you can be looking for us around 3 or 4 o'clock next week. But yeah, tune in Tuesday night, and we'll have more fun. Definitely participate in the chat. Share it with your friends. Thumbs up the video right now just to get it out there a little bit more. Appreciate that. Costs you nothing, and is a way to say thanks for spending the time. All right. Got to pee really bad. Love the ones you love, and take care of yourselves.
All right, hell yeah. Wash your hands.
Peace out.
Good night.
Hey, don't